Hi, it's me. Welcome to the stream. Hello. I actually started on time for once. A little ahead of time even. Hell yeah. Welcome, welcome. We're playing more Ace Attorney today, because we didn't play it yesterday. Oh, fun fact. Yesterday's stream had all sorts of fucking copyright issues because I played Nintendo music. And it kept getting matched to either copyright trolls who claimed they owned Nintendo music, or people who just fucking... people who, like, did a remix of a Nintendo song, and then the fucking copyright system's like, oh, they own that song. Like, no. No. Piss off. But, like, for streams like that, I don't just want to use my chatting BGM. I feel like I'm gonna go insane if I have to listen to that for 3 hours straight. You know? Especially because I've got a stream coming up, like, in a week, where it's going to be a very long one. And I need some sort of background music, and it's... I don't know. Speaking of that stream, I haven't bought my Lego sets for next month yet. I'll need to do that at some point. Cause like I haven't checked what's like upcoming and what's new recently actually. Cause like I haven't had to buy stuff for a while. I had like last I bought I think was April, I think. I bought it in April so that I'd have it for May and June. And then my July one I'd bought in advance, so I don't have anything for next month. That's fine. We're doing this month's one like halfway into the month, so we don't have to do it right at the very start of the right at the very start of next month. Words. Anyway, Ace Attorney. Let's play the game. What is with my brain this morning? I feel like I'm not usually this scatterbrained, and I don't know why. Like I was ready in time to start on time. I had a decent night's sleep. I even like didn't get up until fairly late, but still was ready in time. I haven't had my tea yet. Maybe that's why. Maybe I need a dose of caffeine to jumpstart my brain. Anyway, let's go. Let me just full screen this on my end. Okay, so last time we just finished the trial segment of case 3. So it's time for the second investigation portion. Which, assuming this is like the rest of the main series, this is probably the final investigation segment, and then we're going to get a final court segment. Because after the first game, every case is either just court, investigation, and then court, or investigation, court, investigation, court. We never get 3-day cases anymore after the first game. Oh, this room. It's been too long. It hasn't changed in the slightest, though. And it's been some 6 months, hasn't it? That's a long time for things to stay so familiar. I didn't know when you might return. I wanted everything to be as you'd left it. But it has been some 6 months, it's true. So is your father alright, Susie? What happened? My father? Yes, Professor Mikotoba. I mean, it was half a year ago, but that's why you went back to Japan. Because of the telegram you received saying you'd fallen ill with a very high fever for some unknown reason. That's right. So I was surprised to learn you'd be coming back so soon. Surprised, but happy. I think I wrote about it in my letter to you. It was all a trick. My father is in fine health, and I'm obviously very relieved about that. Well, we're all delighted to have you back. It was quite by accident that I've been able to return to Europe, actually. It's because of a very grand conference called the International Forensic Science Symposium. The International Forensic... That's the same symposium Lord Strongheart mentioned. Anyway, I've arrived safe and sound. All that matters is that I'm here now. After all, I haven't yet fulfilled my promise to you, Iris. Oh! What? What promise? Huh? You must tell us everything that happened while you were back in Japan. Yes, of course, I shall. And there's one other thing. Something you wrote in your letter that particularly grabbed my attention. About you-know-who. About Kazuma. Why are we treating him like he who must not be named? I know. I'll tell you all that I can. Alright, let's chat. That's a lot of chats. Is my tea cold enough to drink yet? Still a little hot. We'll leave it for a little bit. Back in Britain. When I first arrived back in Japan, I really thought I'd never be allowed to return to Britain. But curiously, after that awful trial at the Supreme Court, Father's mood changed entirely. The awful trial? Oh yes, for the murder of Giselle Brett. Ooh. You dressed as a man then, didn't you, Susie? Oh, well, yes. Since women are forbidden in the courtroom, I had no choice. Wow, amazing! I wish I had seen it. Don't you, Bruno? Yes, I suppose so. I want to play at being a lawyer now. I could wear a false moustache, maybe. I don't think any moustache could hide the fact that you're just 10 years old, Iris. There's something else I've been wanting to ask you, Mr. Sato. It's about the real reason why Professor Mikotoba summoned you back to Japan. You said in your letter that it was something to do with that convict's loot we found in Mr. Natsume's lodgings. That's right, the very large dog collar we found with the bee emblem on it. It seems Mr. Natsume included a drawing of the collar in the report he submitted about his time in Britain. I understand that when Father saw the report, he turned as white as a sheet. Why would that be, then? Father came to Britain himself, of course, to study. It was some time ago, but he stayed for 6 years. I can only imagine that something must have happened during that time. But he refuses to tell me what it was. Oh, but if he refuses to tell me what it was, then I intend to find the answers for myself. And I've decided that I, for one, won't keep any more secrets. Oh, Susie! It's a very meaningful look Susato-san's giving Iris there. Oh. Is this about Iris's dad being dead since the very first game? Since the very first case? Forensic Science Symposium. Lord Strongheart mentioned something about that symposium too. I think he said that investigative authorities from 40 different countries would attend. Yes. And from Japan, my father and Judge Jigoku have been invited. It's something of an honor, I believe. Well, Professor Mikotoba is the leading expert in forensic medicine in our country, after all. But who's the other person you mentioned? A judge, did you say? Yes, His Excellency Judge Seishiro Jigoku. You've met him, Mr. Naruhodo. Last year, in the Supreme Court. You can't possibly have forgotten. That terrible trial of yours when you were accused of murder? Ah, yes, I try to think about that as a positive turning point in my life these days. Well, it was Judge Jigoku who presided over that trial. This is one of the only judges that we get an actual name for. If I'm perfectly honest, I'd be happy never to see that man's face again in my life. Like, I looked it up on the Ace Attorney wiki, there's like 8 judges. There, and Judge Jigoku and what's her face, Verity Gavelle from Miles Edgeworth 2. Those are the only 2, I think, that have an actual name. Otherwise, we have the regular judge, the judge's younger brother, the judge from the British Empire, which is from this game. We have the English judge from the Leighton crossover. We have the Labyrinthian judge from the Leighton crossover. And we have the Koreanese judge from Spirit of Justice. And those are the only judges in the series. Only 2 of them get names. Oh, well, anyway, as father was invited to the symposium, he agreed to me returning to Britain too. He won't actually arrive until next month, but, well, I couldn't wait. So I pleaded with him, and in the end he agreed to me going on ahead. Yes, about the symposium, it seems as though Lord Strongheart has put in an awful lot of work to make it happen. It's obviously very important. I believe it is, yes. As I understood it, Lord Strongheart organized the entire event himself. I think he's hoping that by achieving exceptional results, he'll get the job of Attorney General. The most senior position in the British judges. Oh wait, I think Strongheart is also a judge. So there's actually 9 judges and 3 of them have names. I think. The most senior position in the British in the British justice system. He's hoping to use his power to create the world's finest policing institution. That's what father said anyway. Apparently it's Lord Strongheart's lifelong ambition. Does Professor Mikatoma know Lord Strongheart personally then, I wonder? Actually, Lord Strongheart gave me a long speech all about this very subject only yesterday. But I sort of lost the will to live early on and didn't really listen to much of it. That's an interesting way to phrase it. How trying for you. Now, Miss Brett. Giselle Brett. The woman whose unforgivable actions ended in me being wrongly accused of a crime I didn't commit. The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes. Oh, yes, Giselle Brett. That's a name I won't forget for as long as I live. The extraordinary thing is, though, it seems it's a name we should all forget. Sorry? Since the incident, our government's intelligence services have been investigating Miss Brett. But it turns out that an Englishwoman by the name of Giselle Brett didn't actually exist. Didn't exist? But how can that be? Oh no. It was a pseudonym. Her real name was Shin. Shin, huh? It's interesting because Brett is in fact, like, she got her surname from a character from Sherlock Holmes. So I wonder if Shin is also a Sherlock Holmes character. And she wasn't a visiting student either. That was a front. A front? Who on earth was she then? Miss A. Shin. Is her first name Asas? Asas Shin? Is she an assassin? Her name is literally all our intelligence services have been able to ascertain about her. No one knows why, or even how she came to be in Japan. It's a complete mystery. But that makes no sense. It's no easy task to be accepted as a foreign student anywhere. What could the woman have been up to? I'm afraid I don't really know. The only thing we can be sure of is that she had some business in our country that we don't yet understand. And now she's been killed, while all the questions surrounding her existence remain unanswered. I'm afraid so. A Shin. Who on earth was she? And why do I feel as though I've heard that name before somewhere? Oh, was that one of the names in the heckin'... what's it? The telegram at the end of the first game. Y'all didn't see it because I didn't stream the first game, but it was a thing. I think they mentioned Mikotoba, Asagi, potentially Shin was one of them. And then I think also Van Zeeks. Or was it Sholmes? Or was it Wilson? I don't remember. And what about Kazuma? After my friend Ray's trial, the reporter who actually killed Miss Brett said something very strange. I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. I don't remember what his name was, what his voice was. Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never... Obviously, I couldn't ask him to elaborate at the time. But later, I visited the man in his prison cell and asked him what he was going to say about Kazuma-sama. And what did you learn? After he died on the voyage to Great Britain, his body should have been unladen at the port of Hong Kong and passed into the care of the consulate staff there. Should have been? Well, it turns out his body never arrived. It just disappeared. What the fuck? What? Kazuma's body vanished? Don't tell me they're gonna pull a stunt where it's like, oh, he's not actually dead, and then he's the dude who's like working under Van Zeeks, because they were definitely implying something there. I wasn't gonna say it last time, but it definitely felt like they were implying that Van Zeeks' protege was Kazuma, even though Kazuma was dead. And now it definitely seems like they're trying to imply that Kazuma is still alive. If he is, do not tell me. I will learn myself. No spoilers. Our government tried to cover up the fact, it seems. They erected a grave on the cliffs by our hometown. Except Kazuma-sama isn't there. Did Professor Mikotoba know about this? Yes, it would seem that he did. But he didn't tell me. They're still investigating what happened to Kazuma-sama's body as we speak. I just don't believe it. And what is this acute feeling of apprehension I have all of a sudden? The Kazuma mystery. Thinking back now, some of the things that happened on the SS Buria were definitely strange. I mean, after he died, we never saw his body again, did we? Could it be that he's actually still alive? Stop it, Mr. Naruhodo. That's too much to bear. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Just thinking about the possibility pains me. So very much. Cast your mind back for a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. When Kazuma-sama was discovered, Mr. Sholmes was there, wasn't he? And he definitely examined the body. I remember it clearly. Yeah, but Sholmes is a fucking idiot. You're right. Yeah, because Sholmes has never made a mistake before. Definitely. So if Kazuma hadn't actually been dead at all, it would mean that Mr. Sholmes had lied to us. But there's no reason why he would have possibly done such a thing. I suppose that's true, yes. Except I'm pretty sure Sholmes or Wilson was mentioned in the telegram related to Mr. Asagi. To Kazuma. The idea that he might still be alive somewhere. It wants to fill me with hope, but I can't let it. Because if it turned out to not be true, then that hope would turn into despair. Yeah, there it is. Then I'd be back at the bottom of that awful pit of despair again. Danganronpa, baby. I'm terrified of what that might do to me. Oh, Miss Susato. I know she's given the idea the thought it deserves. It's Susato-san we're talking about after all. I probably shouldn't push it now. Alright, well, I guess we now present stuff, because, like, we've talked about all there is, but we can't move yet. So unless there's something to examine, which I doubt it, because this is just the office, it's probably something we present here. Badge. You're still taking good care of that armband, I see. I'm so pleased. Well, yes, it feels like it wouldn't be me without it now, to be honest. Oh dear, there seems to be a thread coming loose just there. Look. I'd be only too happy to mend it for you, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, thank you. I must have scraped it against something again. I'm always doing that. Then take better care of it, please. It was all going so well until I ruined it. Alright. What else do we show her? About this paper, Miss Susato. Yes, it's all about the great exhibition. I've been dreaming about it, you know. I was sorry that you were going to miss it when you were called back to Japan. So was I. I felt desperately unlucky. But here I am, back in London while it's underway. It's a dream come true. Perhaps you're not as unlucky as you thought then. Once we've helped Professor Hairbrain out of his terrible situation, we should all explore it together. And of course, we must invite the Professor's good friend Lord Van Zeeks as well. Your luck might not stretch that far. Hey, what do you know about this crossbow? This was used to shoot down the balloon, wasn't it? Yes, with a flaming arrow. It's quite a formidable weapon. I'm quite accomplished with a longbow myself, you know. No, really? If you were to balance an apple on your head, Mr. Naruhodo, I'm quite confident I could hit it from a good 50 meters away. Quite confident, you say. Does the apple necessarily have to be on my head? I'm a little lost at what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Mr. Sato, do you see this? You have such great expectation in your eyes, Mr. Naruhodo, but I'm afraid nothing particularly useful comes to mind at all. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure what I was expecting, really. I don't know what else we'd have here. Let's take a look around. Maybe there is something. Oh, I'm so looking forward to making you some tea again, Mr. Naruhodo. Which you'd think I wouldn't like, given I'm not keen on bitter flavors, but it is Susato-san's tea. And it's amazing what a little cake or something on the side can do. I would dearly love to serve you some sort of Japanese sweet alongside your matcha green tea. But I suppose that's simply not possible given how long we've been staying here in London. Well, I do like the little chocolates you put with my tea. They go wonderfully. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. You would, wouldn't you? That gives me a warm glow inside for some reason. Why do we have a shovel up here? Thinking back, that spade's been here since we first moved in, hasn't it? I'm sure I've told you before, Mr. Naruhodo, it's not a spade, it's a shovel. No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material, it's a spade. No, spades are for digging, it's for that's for scooping up loose material, it's a shovel. The great spade shovel will... Okay, so I guess because stepladders hadn't been invented at this point in history, they had to come up with something else, so they went with spade and shovel. I didn't even know that was there, because I never bothered to look around the office before. Great. You have water gently boiling on the stove, I see. It feels wrong somehow if I can't hear the water bubbling away. And we have plenty of logs, it's not like we have to worry about paying for gas. It's important to open the window for fresh air when the fire's burning, though. You can't keep it closed just because it's cold outside. It could be a matter of life and death. Avoiding the freezing winter air is a matter of life and death too, if you ask me. Oh well. Perhaps a nice cup of tea will warm you up later. Can't even look at the ladder. I see your Daruma still only has one eye filled in. Well, we agreed it's something we'd do together, didn't we? We could do it right now if you'd like. I'd be happy with that. I rather like the anticipation, I think, Mr. Naruhodo. Alright, let's look at the desk, I guess. You see, I've been keeping my desk beautifully covered in papers, as always. You really must tidy it all up, Mr. Naruhodo. No more excuses. But Miss Susato, the way I see it, all these papers building up on my desk like this are a reminder of my wonderfully diverse daily life. I like to leave them as they are, so I never forget how lucky I am to have such varied experiences. In that case, you should definitely have a thorough tidy. Then you'll be able to see all your papers building up all over again and feel that joy renewed. Still can't beat her in an argument, even though I'm the lawyer here. Oh. That's what we were missing. We haven't spoken to Iris yet. It must be about a year ago now. I wrote a really long story based on some of my father's old notes. It's about one of Hurley's greatest exploits. I called it The Hound of the Baskervilles. Oh. Oh. But then Mr. Sholmes forbade you from publishing it. And put the manuscript somewhere nobody could get their hands on it. So nobody knows anything about it apart from Hurley and I. But for some reason, you knew the title of it, didn't you, Susie? Oh, it sounds so exciting. The Hound of the Baskervilles. I should love to read it. And she wouldn't tell me how you'd come to know it. Yes, but I made you a promise that I would explain one day, didn't I? Oh, so we're not talking about the fact that her father is already dead and no one has told her yet. I think it's time. Oh! I'm only sorry I've had to keep it from you for so long, Iris. It was completely by accident that I came to know the title of your manuscript, Iris. It was a short while before we left Japan. I was cleaning Father's study and I saw something on his writing desk. A large box of papers. There was a label affixed to the box that was written in English. It read, The Hound of the Baskervilles. What? My Baskerville story? Of course, I had no idea what it was at the time. But Father came in and... Susato, what are you doing? I don't remember what his name was, what his voice was. Oh, Father. Did you look at those papers? Oh, wait. I didn't give characters voices in the first case. That's why I don't remember what their voices were, because I didn't give them voices. No, I simply read the label, that's all. Well, put it out of your mind. Sorry? Forget that you ever saw it. And certainly don't tell anybody else about this. Do you understand? Well then. But what was Iris's manuscript doing in Japan? I didn't give him a different accent because I guess I've just decided that all the Japanese characters speak with Australian accents now. I have no idea. But when I heard Iris mention the word Baskerville that day, the title just slipped out. I would never have guessed that it was an unpublished account of one of Mr. Sholmes' exploits. When I returned to Japan, I asked Father to explain, but he refused to answer any of my questions, and there was no sign of the big box in his office. Oh no. That's really all I know about it. Are we still not telling Iris that her dad is dead? I've no doubt that Father has a very good reason for being so secretive about it, but still, I made up my mind to explain myself to both of you. Well, thank you for being so honest, Susie. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I'm ready to start investigating if you are. I've committed every detail about the case to memory. And Iris has told me about the disturbing happenings at the Waxwork Museum as well. So, you're fully abreast of the situation already, Mr. Sato. I expected nothing less, to be honest. I would think our first port of call should be to investigate this Mr. Drebber, the engineer responsible for building the elaborate machine that was used to effect this extraordinary trick. Yes, a conjurer of sorts by the sounds of it, well known in the fields of science and magic. Then we need to go and arrest him! Well, yes, he must know the truth behind this case, so I agree we really do need to find the man. It sounds like it's a case of tracking someone down. Which is a job for the police, or a great detective. Are we supposed to guess who she might be thinking of? We don't have much time, so we need to get started straight away, I think. Good idea. Well, best of luck then. Oh, you're not coming today? I'm going to Brixton Road shortly for the herb market. But please let me know later how you got on, won't you? Now it's back to just us and Susato then. That was a little abrupt. The pull of the herb market must be strong. Alright, so I assume... Oh, we have a new location? What new location did we... What? Mr. Shums' suite is just as it was when I left. Yeah, because they didn't want to paint a new background. Don't believe we visited this place. Don't believe we visited this place. Haven't been here yet. I'm rather excited. So from what Iris was saying, I assume she wants us to go to Madame Two Spells to go speak to Herlock Sholmes and be like, hey, where can we find this guy? Oh, hey, the policeman that was on the jury is gone now. Oh my, no wonder it's called the House of Horrors. Also, my title finally came true. This, instead of putting a wax joke in the title and not having the wax lady show up, this time the wax lady is going to be here, surely. I'd like to turn on my heels and go straight home, via the confectionery. Being scared makes you crave sweets? I can understand that. I was looking forward to a reunion after 6 months away, but there's no sign of Mr. Sholmes anywhere. That's strange. He should be here investigating the abduction of the waxwork. Oh well, I suppose we'll just have to come back again later. Really? He's not... Nope, he's not here. Okay. Well, I want to have a look at these anyway. Oh, what a horrifying scene! A murderer caught in the grisly act. I know. And in case you're wondering, it's the one with the big knife that's supposed to be the killer. No shit. I don't think anybody would be in any doubt about that, surely. And did you know that according to the description, the bathtub in the back has no particular significance? What? Really? I would have thought it was meant to show that the killer also worked in a bathhouse peddling criminal wares. Aha, we have a new theory. What? This one's in 3D. That old policeman isn't here now, obviously. I still can't believe he just happened to be on the jury, though. I'd understood that London has a population of 6 million people, and yet... You do seem to run into the same people disproportionately often, don't you? And this one, is this Jack the Ripper? This one's posture reveals his weakness. What? Sorry? The killer's stance leaves him wide open to attack. I'm quite sure I could see him off. With a Susato takedown, then a Susato squash, and finally a Susato smash. Yeah, screw Phoenix Wright getting into Smash. We need Susato. Right. And if that doesn't render the culprit unconscious, a Susato slam should finish him. A Susato slam? Oh, I'm sorry. It's rather hard to explain. Leave yourself open slightly and I'll demonstrate. Absolutely not. What about the... Okay, so maybe I was wrong. The wax lady hasn't shown up yet. Ah yes, the heavy curtains in the middle of the House of Horrors. Whatever's on the other side of them, you just know it's going to be terrifying, don't you? The sign says it's the Madame Tuspel's special exhibit. It seems you have to pay extra to go inside. I know, can you believe that? Pay more money, as if we haven't been scared enough already. It's not my doing, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay, well, let's go somewhere else, I guess. Daka. Great exhibition grounds, foot of the Crystal Tower. Oh. I had no idea there were so many people in the world. I know what you mean. It's really packed here today. Doesn't look like it. It feels as though it's taken us 2 hours just to make our way through the crowds to this point. Has it? I shut my brain down, so I didn't really notice, to be honest. Gosh, I do wish I had your absence of mind sometimes, Mr. Naruhodo. There you are. Is this... I'm going to do the voice of, what's her face? What's her face? Gina. I'm going to do the voice of Gina because I'm assuming it's Gina, but it could... Because, we saw her there. But it could also potentially be, Gregson. There you are. I had a feeling you lot would show your mugs before long. Nope, it was Gregson. Fuck. I missed the 50-50. Oh, Inspector Gregson. I see you're hard at work as usual. Warm greetings to you. I hope you've been keeping well since we last met. Oh, was that supposed to be, Susato? Oh. What's with all this ceremony? We saw each other in court this morning. We just saw each other in court this morning. Not you, Sunshine, the gentlewoman so loyally at your side. Oh. Why, thank you, Inspector. How good of you to notice. He might be a bit rough around the edges, but he's still a proper English gentleman at heart, I suppose. As you've probably guessed, we were hoping to investigate the scene some more. Right, well, that's the young trainee's domain. Oi, get over here, Gina. She's busy with the doggo. She seems to be busy playing with a puppy. Probably giving it a traditional East End training. Gina? She's a police officer now? Amazing, isn't it? She's a good kid, actually. Art's in the right place, anyway. She's got the detection bug, if you ask me. Yep, I think she'll follow in my footsteps nicely. What do you mean? I'm being transferred. It's time for me to say toodaloo to London. Oh no, really? That's a bit sudden, isn't it? I had no idea. Where are you going to be posted then? We'll come to see how you're getting along. Not likely. But you're welcome to try. If you don't mind a trip to France, that is. To France? I'll be working in the Paris Police Prefecture. Should be right up my alley. But France? It's an entirely different country. I don't understand. Why would you be sent there? That is a very good question. That's the way the adult world works, Sunshine. Now don't go poking your nose in where it's not warranted. Oh, he put his chips away. I'm intending to take the kid. I'm intending to take the kid with me when I go. What? You're taking Gina to Paris? Well, I can't leave her here in London. Who knows what had become of her? I suppose he's worried she'd slip back into slipping our heads in people's pockets and purses. I don't think he's worried about her pickpocketing, Mr. Naruhodo. I think he's worried about the Reaper. Oh, of course. So that's playing on Inspector Gregson's mind too, is it? Anyway, I haven't mentioned any of this to Gina. So don't go blabbing, you hear me? No, of course not. I've got to keep that Diamond Diva safe and sound. Until all this is over, at least. All this, eh? Oi! Did you just call me a bloomin' Diamond Diva again? So you heard that, did you? Right, well. Any questions about the scene, you can put them to my capable detective diva here. Alright, you heard the boss. Inspector Lestrade's in charge here now. I suppose I'd better keep my word and not mention anything about Paris. So, Gina, you've got a new dog, have you? Doggo! Isn't he great? Toby's his name. Oh, named after Inspector Gregson, probably. Oh, how delightful. He's absolutely adorable. Yes, the dog does seem lovely. But it's the not-so-lovely Inspector Gregson that's playing on my mind, to be honest. I'm just now noticing that, like, the buttons on her cap kind of, like, look like eyes. Anyway, let's have a chat. Gina, we were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again. Yeah, alright. If it's around here, you can do what you like. Oh, that's alright, is it? I'm gonna be playing with me new friend here. Ah, yes, Toby. Well, the machine that exploded must be at the top of those stairs, I presume? I haven't actually seen it yet, so if you don't mind... sorry, you can't go up there, Suze. Oh. It's like I told Odo yesterday. Even I ain't allowed near that wreck. What's it called again? The reason we ain't supposed to touch it? The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? Is that what you were thinking of? That's the one! That's why only them lot are allowed to investigate it. What are they called again? The forensic something? The Forensic Investigation Team. Is that what you were thinking of? That's the one, yeah! But isn't the case that the special dispensation has been lifted? Or isn't it the case? I think so. I don't really get it, to be truthful with ya. You're still supposed to get permission from some bigwig or other, as far as I know. What was his name again? Lord Strange something? Oh, that's why they want us to go to see Lord Strongheart. I'm not sure that's quite right, Gina. I think you mean Lord Strongheart, perhaps? That's the one, yeah! Apparently, he's always watching the time or something. So without Lord Strongheart's express permission, we can't investigate this on the stage. It was great, weren't it? I had a right laugh. It was a new one on me, that. You know, being in court and not spending the whole time worrying I'm about to be found out. You did keep an awful lot of secrets in your previous court appearances, didn't you? Yeah, and Odo's made it hard for me every single time and all. Just doing my job, Gina. But watching someone else get in the neck is a lot of fun. Ha! I'm stumbling over my words. But watching someone else get stuck in the neck But watching someone else get it in the neck is a lot of fun, actually. It was amazing when you showed that dodgy professor's dodgy experiment was a total fix. The dodgy professor, as you put it, Gina, is Mr. Naruhodo's client. Yes, I'm starting to wish he wasn't, though. It's the boss I feel sorry for, sent off to do the impossible. What do you mean? He's supposed to arrest that other cove, ain't he? And in time for tomorrow and all. You know, the dodgy engineer. What's his name again? Mr. Drebber, you mean? Enoch Drebber. Which I still don't know the pun of. That's the one, yeah. So the police are looking for this mysterious man with the black monocle. I guessed they would be. It's putting too much on the boss, if you ask me. He says it's giving him gut ache. Oh dear. But I do wonder if that isn't actually from all the fried food. Man. But fish and chips are so good, though. So Scotland Yard are trying to track down Mr. Enoch Drebber. I wonder if they've had any luck. He's really funny looking. Got two eyes what don't match. Stole a glimpse of a picture of him earlier. I mean, I didn't actually pinch it or nothing. The old devil's got it. Sorry, who? You know, that scowling reaper what's always glugging down glasses of that blood-red plonk. Ah, Lord Van Zeeks. He's always had it in for me, that cove. Don't know what he's always scowling about, mind. Probably would have been a pretty good boss as it goes. She'd rather be the Reaper's apprentice than a detective's trainee. He'd be a good boss in a Castlevania game. The way I see it, if the choice is between a chip-guzzling detective and a chalice-glugging demigod, maybe he does fit in Castlevania after all. You're equally badly off with both. I suppose you're right. I hadn't thought of it like that. Glad we've put that one to bed. Anyway, the point is, everyone at the yard's been dead set on finding the fishy engineer. But there don't seem to be no clues to go on, so they're stuck. There's nothing that can lead us to Drebber at all? What about Toby? Where did you find that little mutt then, Gina? Oi, don't be so flaming rude, Odo. Slight overreaction, don't you think? He ain't no mutt, alright? Toby's, how do they put it? Is he a canine police dog? Oh yeah, a bona fide detective. Sorry? I've given him a proper title and everything. It's Chief Inspector Toby to you. More senior than Inspector Gregson, is he? Oh, so he's a police dog, is he? The police recruit dogs now? I've heard they're already being used officially in Germany as part of their city policing. They're used for chasing criminals and such like. They have a wonderful sense of smell after all. I have a fairly good sense of smell myself as it happens. I can tell the undergarments that have been freshly laundered. I can tell undergarments that have been freshly laundered from undergarments that haven't. Ryunosuke, can you shut the fuck up? That's nothing compared to this little fella, Odo. Oh, really? According to what the boss said, once Toby has got a good whiff of your drawers, he could chase that scent to the other side of the world. What? To the other side of the world? You mean he can swim? I don't think that's the impressive part, Ryunosuke. Mr. Naruhodo, I think you may have missed the point by a rather wide margin. I just can't believe this little dog has such an incredible skill. I'm telling you, Odo, there's got to be something more. There's got to be more and more dogs doing their bit for the police in future. Unfortunately. Poor doggos. Yes, I agree. Right, one of these days they'll be barking orders at us lot, not the other way around. Oh dear. Sorry, Gina, I don't think I agree with your vision quite that much. Well, anyway, whatever you think about that, Toby is Britain's first police dog. I found him down the East End the other day. Someone had chucked him out on the street. There you go. I knew she'd lifted him from somewhere. Oh, Gina, you're such a kind-hearted soul, aren't you? To children and to animals. How old is Gina, anyway? 18? She's not that far out of childhood herself. Anyway, we'll have a look around and then we'll go see Mr. Strongheart. Here's the scorching on the ground that you mentioned. Yes, and here's what's left of the green balloon's envelope. I feel like something rising in my throat and doesn't want to pop. Anyway. All clear evidence of the balloon that exploded on the day of the incident. Poor Professor Hairbrain. I do feel for him that his dreams have been shattered like this. Someone's well and truly burst his bubble, as it were. Ha 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 ha. Ouch. I'm a bad person. Oh, that's it? We're not going to talk about it at all? Okay. Well. Off to go see Lord Chief Justice Strongheart then. Oh, who's this? Haven't seen them before. Oh, who's that standing beside Lord Strongheart? I wonder. I've never seen her before.
Ah, the young champion of the court. You had some success this morning, I understand. And you've thrown the entire government into disarray as a result.
Oh. You mean because of Professor Hairbrain's experiment?
Sham science being demonstrated at London's great exhibition. The country's been made to look foolish. And now our politicians are scrambling to respond. Lord Van Zeeks is in Whitehall as we speak, giving an emergency briefing.
I don't think I'm giving him enough of an accent. Oh dear, I didn't mean to cause any trouble.
None of this is your responsibility. The government is entirely to blame for having been taken in. The special dispensation that prevents investigation at the scene will be annulled later today. Once that happens, my forensic investigation team will move in and deal with that scrap metal in no time.
It's scrap metal now, is it? Until later then, Lord Strongheart.
Yes, thank you.
Off they go. Who was that?
That was Dr. Courtney Seath.
Scythe? I don't know.
Scotland Yard's esteemed chief coroner. She's leading the forensic team's handling of this case.
Real Matt on God, thank you for the follow. Hope you enjoy your stay.
She was just delivering her report about the victim, in fact.
Oh, I see. About Mr. Asman.
Following the outcome of the trial earlier, I asked the coroner's office to re-evaluate its findings. I don't have time to tell you what she concluded. If you want to know, you'll have to ask her directly. You can find her in the forensics laboratory.
Ah, right.
Now, what were you here to see me about? I can give you 7 minutes and 39 seconds of my time.
So he's not running quite so spectacular late anymore. Let's have a word with Mr. Strongheart. What exactly is the forensic investigation team that you mentioned before?
The British Empire's police force must become the most exemplary in the world. For that to happen, it's imperative that we embrace forensic science and everything it has to offer. I first created the forensic investigation team a year ago now, unofficially of course, to pave the way.
Goodness, a year ago?
At next month's symposium, I intend to present the results of their work.
Why am I having such a hard time reading today?
I intend to present the results of their work to the world. Once I do that, the House of Lords will be powerless to oppose the creation of a full-scale forensics division. And once that happens, the position of Attorney General will be mine, and criminals will suffer dearly.
What do you mean?
For too long, these scoundrels have made a mockery of our legal system with false evidence and bribes. But London's scum is going to be rounded up and burnt in the fires of hell.
Okay, that's a little over the top.
I intend to see to it personally. By creating the finest police force the world has ever known, to protect our honor and our future.
Look at those eyes. He means every word.
Dr. Seath is an extremely reliable coroner. When I officially establish the forensics division at Scotland Yard, she will run it as my right-hand woman. Now then, speaking of the symposium, Miss Mikotoba.
Oh, yes, my lord.
Your father should be on the high seas as we speak, making his way here to represent the Empire of Japan.
Yes, that's right. I understand he will arrive at the beginning of next month. Are you acquainted, Lord Strongheart? With Professor Mikotoba, I mean.
It was many years ago now, but yes. I remember Dr. Mikotoba very well.
Okay, well, we have more to talk about.
If my memory serves, it was some 15 years ago now that your father came to Britain as a visiting student.
was the year I was born, so yes, 16 years ago, in fact. She's only 16? She's younger than Gina? Okay.
Mikitoba was a young practitioner of forensic science, and Jigoku accompanied him as a young, promising judge. The punctiliousness and politeness of the Japanese at the time impressed us greatly. Not that I wish to imply impoliteness or carelessness on your part in any way.
I didn't think that you were.
Dr. Mikitoba studied forensics at one of London's large hospitals. St. Sinners, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Seath was also there, as it happens.
It might actually be Scythe then. Since the Y is being pronounced as an I, maybe the I is being pronounced as a Y. Then Dr. Seath knows my father, does she?
She was a young medical assistant at the time, so I doubt their paths crossed regularly. But I've no doubt they knew each other superficially. After all, Dr. Mikitoba was here studying his subject for some 6 years in total.
6 years? That's a long time to be studying abroad, isn't it? Especially when your daughter was, like, just born. I lived with my grandmother in those years. What about your mother? Where was she? So he left his newly born daughter behind and went overseas for 6 whole years? It was a rather turbulent time at home. Oh. Perhaps father wanted a reason to get away. What do you mean? Why? Well, clearly something was going on at the time. I wonder if we'll learn the outcome of that, learn what was going on then, or whether that was just supposed to be a haha funny. I wanted to ask you about Lord Van Zieks, actually. I heard that his older brother was killed some years ago by a mass murderer known as the Professor, who targeted nobles and royalty. Is that right?
You Japanese are a thorough lot. You've done your research well. Yes. And you could say it was that very incident that gave rise to the Reaper.
What? Why?
When his brother Clint Van Zieks was murdered. It was just after young Baroque had graduated from the University of London and become a prosecutor. When obvious criminals managed to evade conviction in court. When obvious criminals who managed to evade conviction in court started disappearing, rumors quickly spread throughout the capital. Londoners started to say that wherever Baroque Van Zieks went, the ghost of his dead brother wasn't far behind.
Oh my word. So Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper? It's the ghost of his brother?
Ever since that time, he became a very aloof figure in London's legal circles.
Oh, that's it. That's the end. Oh, yes, Lord Strongheart.
Go ahead.
It's about Professor Harebrain's experimental machine. We'd like your permission to examine the remains, if possible.
Are you well versed in science, then?
Not in the slightest. In fact, you can say I was barely aware of the subject at all until recently.
Well, the special dispensation legally preventing the investigation of the machine is currently being annulled. Within a few hours, Dr. Seath's team of forensic experts will begin their own investigation. But I suppose until then, there's no harm in you looking at the wreckage, as long as you touch nothing.
Thank you. Being able to look at it is better than nothing. And I'll be able to see it too.
Your time is up. You'll have to excuse me now, I'm afraid. My next engagement calls.
We are extremely sorry to have troubled you when you are so busy, my lord.
I have important matters to attend to in preparation for the symposium, you understand.
And off he goes. Now we can investigate. Oh, and we can also go see... what's her face? Dr. Seath. But first, let's go here. So I think we do this to go up, I think. Oi! That's off limits up there. Trying to sneak past me again and I'll stuff your gob full of the boss's fish and chips. Let's go, free fish and chips. Yes, please, I love fish and chips. Yeah, based Ryunosuke. I suppose we need special permission. But we just got, oh. No? Okay, but we just got special permission though. Oh, do we have to speak to her first? Yes, okay. Never mind. Gina, we were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again. Yeah, alright. If it's around here, you can do what you like. Oh, that's alright, is it? I'm gonna be playing with me new friend here. Ah, yes, Toby. Woof. The machine that exploded must be at the top of these stairs, I presume. I haven't actually seen it yet, so if you don't mind. Sorry, you can't go up there, Suze. Oh. It's like I told Ono yesterday. Even I ain't allowed near that wreck. What's it called again? The reason we ain't supposed to touch it? The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Is that what you were thinking of? Did they really have to do the entire conversation over? Like, I understand if maybe, like, someone didn't click on it the first time, but, like, I did. That's the one? That's why only them lot are allowed to investigate it. What are they called again? The forensic something? The forensic investigation team? Is that what you were thinking of? That's the one, yeah. But isn't it the case that the special dispensation has been lifted? I think so. I don't really get it, to be truthful with you. You're still supposed to get permission from some bigwig or other, as far as I know. What was his name again? Lord Strange something? I'm not sure that's quite right, Gina. I think you mean Lord Strongheart, perhaps? That's the one, yeah. Apparently he's always watching the time or something. Actually, we've just recently been to see Lord Strongheart. Eh? You what? You've met him? Last time the boss was called to go and see him. He waited for 3 hours at the Co's office and came back snivelling. Tragic. Well, Lord Strongheart has given us permission to examine the scene as long as we touch nothing. Oh yeah? Honestly. Alright then, go ahead. But if it turns out you're lying, it'll be the boss who gets it. He'll never eat another chip again in his life. Oh no. So, you're still saying all this is above board, are you? I'm sure everything will be fine. That really would be tragic. Alright then. Them's the stairs, off you go. Oh, thank you, Gina. Alright, up the stairs we go. These stairs lead up to the experimentation stage. Let's go and see what we can find out. Great exhibition grounds. Experimentation stage. Oh my, so this is the machine? That was used to deceive people into thinking instantaneous kinesis had taken place. Yes, that's right. Or rather, it was the machine. It's a little worse for wear at the moment. What extraordinary lengths Professor Hairbrain went to in order to obtain the research grant. No, the professor was tricked as well. He didn't know anything about it. Yes, of course. It is amazing, though, isn't it? The scale of the whole affair is so very British. You're right about that. You'd never see such a grand deception in Japan, that's for sure. Oh look, is that... Oh hey. Lord Van Zeeks? He just faded into view. So, I think we're more or less done here, aren't we, shall we, Mr. Santa? Already? He is the Reaper, remember? We'll do well to keep our distance, I think. But we have permission to be here. From the top. We're perfectly well allowed to investigate this machine, as long as we don't touch anything. From the top? Do you mean Lord Strongheart? Exactly. So we can stay here and stare at this wreckage for as long as we like. She could have been at the center of the explosion here and it wouldn't have bent her steel wheel. Right, well, I guess we'll start with Mr. Van Zieks. Least approachable man in the world, winner 10 years in a row. Be strong, Mr. Naruhodo. Your country and your assistant stand firm behind you. Lord Van Zieks.
What?
Well, beautiful weather we're having, isn't it?
I thought I was making it quite clear that I didn't want to be disturbed. Apparently you Nipponese are unequipped to read the signs.
Oh, I read them.
So, what are you doing here? Entry to this area is prohibited.
Well, the thing is... Lord Chief Justice Strongheart granted us permission to investigate, on the condition that we didn't disturb anything.
And yet you've managed to disturb me. Never mind. State your business then.
Come to think of it, there are quite a few things I'd like to ask Lord Van Zieks about. Not least of which that awful case, even though it's nothing to do with this. Ask away, Mr. Naruhodo. You won't know unless you try. Rightio. Let's lead with that, I guess. So, Clint was the name of your older brother, I understand, Lord Van Zieks.
You Nipponese. I always have to be on guard whenever you're around. So you've been investigating me, have you?
Oh, no, it's not like that. Well, alright, it is a bit like that.
My older brother was also a prosecutor. He was the pride of the Van Zieks family. But tragically, a vicious killer took him from us.
The professor, you mean? Is something funny?
That's the extent of what you've discovered, is it? I shouldn't be surprised.
Sorry? There's more to it then?
Lackluster work is very much your trademark, isn't it?
You're too kind. Are you going to tar all Nipponese with the same brush next?
So tell me, what's your interest in that historic incident?
As it happens, Lord Van Zieks, there's a rather curious case that's come to our attention. Are you aware of the Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxwork by any chance?
I am, naturally. I believe that since last month I feature in one of the displays there, for public scorn.
Of course the infamous Reaper of the Bailey would have to be exhibited, wouldn't he? Well, a particular waxwork has been stolen from the place and held for ransom.
A particular waxwork? Which... Wait, you mean...
Yes, it's the professor. Mr. Sholmes is investigating the case as we speak.
I was unaware of that.
He's turned as white as a sheet. And that's all we have to say about that, I guess. Are the police trying to locate the engineer, Mr. Drebber, already?
Surely that goes without saying.
We're very keen to see him found as well. The trouble is, we don't have much to go on aside from the description of the man we heard in court earlier. Which, according to Professor Harebrain, was of a tall, thin gentleman who has straight white hair and wears a black monocle. So I was just wondering, I mean, I realize it's probably not possible, but, we'd very much appreciate any more clues you can give us. Wow, Susato-san really knows how to take the bull by the horns.
Fine, why not? I have a photograph of the man here from an investigation 10 years ago. Though it appears he already had that black monocle at the time.
I see.
What?
Oh, no, nothing. I was just surprised that you shared that with us.
We all need the man's testimony in court tomorrow, which means we have to do everything we possibly can to track him down in the short time available. So why wouldn't I show you the photograph?
What is it about Lord Van Zeeks? Sometimes I just can't work him out at all. The photograph of Drebber has been entered into the court record. Oh hey, it's Hooded Person.
Ah, the file I requested for the trial tomorrow. Thank you.
Are you alright? Who is this man, Mr. Naruhodo? Lord Van Zeeks' apprentice, apparently. Sorry. I'm not sick anymore, but my nose is still being a little dumb here and there. So I'm not the only one. Susato-san can see it too. Lord Van Zeeks, may we speak with your apprentice for a moment?
With him? Why?
Nope, off he goes. Kazuma-sama! Kazuma? I don't believe it. Your posture, your presence. It can only be... It's you, isn't it, Kazuma-sama? I felt something strange the very first time I encountered this cloaked figure. As if I knew him somehow. He says it like it was some, like, huge amount of time ago. It was literally yesterday. Can it really be you, Kazuma? But wait! Too late.
What's going on here?
Well, time to have a chat.
What is your interest in my apprentice, exactly? You act as if you know the man or something.
Well, since when has he been in your care? I don't recall you having an apprentice before I left Britain 6 months ago.
Lord Strongard introduced him to me about 3 months ago now, with instructions to mentor him as a prosecutor.
But he didn't tell you why, did he?
The man appears to be suffering from amnesia. He's forgotten every last detail about himself.
Oh, the fucking bonk on the head probably did it to him. He has amnesia?
Tomorrow he will appear in court at my side.
What?
He's to serve as my judicial assistant, on Lord Strongheart's orders.
He'll be in court with us.
Now then, unless I'm much mistaken, I believe this conversation has run its course.
Oh, yes, thank you. I definitely saw a reaction there. When Susato-san called out like that, it really seemed to hit a nerve. When she called out Kazuma-sama. Alright, well, time to look around, I guess. With this dramatic music in the background. What a terrible explosion it must have been. I was actually trying to look at the microphone on the ground, but sure. Even the steel girders have buckled and twisted in the blast. They should have used galvanized square steel. That'd hold it. And what they call the bird cage was right in the middle of it all, just here. But look, Mr. Naruhodo. That metal grill on the floor looks as though it's designed to open. It does, doesn't it? If the floor had opened at the precise moment the explosion occurred, then the bird cage could have dropped through and disappeared from sight. I don't think there's any doubt that this was a very elaborate hoax, is there? This wasn't here yesterday. Really? But if I'm not mistaken, it's the cage in which the victim was standing before he was apparently beamed through the air. That's right, the bird cage. According to what Professor Hairbrain's said in court, it's made of wood. Or more precisely, Japanese cypress, I think. And despite having been in an explosion and falling from a great height, it's relatively unharmed. What wonderfully durable construction, wouldn't you say, Mr. Naruhodo? I'd understood that the forensic investigation team had taken it away yesterday to examine it. I suppose they must have brought it back here when they'd finished their work. But sadly, not with the body inside it. No, that's right. I know we were given strict instructions not to touch anything, but still... Ryunosuke! This is too important a piece of evidence to overlook. We might need it for the trial. Okay, so you noted it down. That's not touching it. Oh, that's it. That's all we get. Okay. You'd already met that masked man, hadn't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, yesterday, in fact, at Lord Van Zeeks' office. I see. And if Kazuma-sama really is still alive, it means that Mr. Sholmes lied to us. I know. We're going to need to speak with him about that.
You're going to have to leave now.
Exclamation mark.
The forensic investigation team are due to arrive shortly. If they find you here, it will cause problems.
What sort of problems?
Foreign affairs problems.
Well, we could do without that. Alright, we'll be on our way. Let's go, Mr. Sato. Of course. Now we're back down here. I guess we could go... we haven't spoken to Professor Hairbrain, but let's go to the forensics laboratory instead. Oh, well this is nice, isn't it? I believe this is it. Dr. C's... You know what, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Scythe. I'm gonna just start pronouncing it Scythe. Dr. Scythe's laboratory. That chemical smell really assaults the nose, and there's plenty to assault the eyes in here too. It looks as though the doctor isn't here. But we're here now, so we may as well do some sightseeing, don't you think? What a seasoned tourist you've become, Miss Susato. We could just have a little look around, being careful not to upset any restless souls. Alright, I guess we'll have a look around then. Look at this big thick book here. It appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh? What is it? It's clear that the team purchases various equipments, equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but... Well, one entry seems rather strange. Really? In what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month. 500? They must be working really hard on dissecting corpses. I don't know. Judicial autopsies are only carried out in certain special circumstances. And scalpel blades can be sharpened too. It does seem a bit strange, you're right. Are they like buying scalpels and then like black marketing them out? 500 scalpels a month. What could they possibly be using all of them for? What are you doing? Ah. Hello. Sorry, we had something we wanted to ask you, but you weren't here, so... So you thought you'd snoop around? That's acceptable to people from the East, is it? Well, what do you want? Lord Strongass told us, you see, that it was you who examined the victim's body. Mr. Asman's body, I mean. Yo, she's got like a snake bracelet. That's cool. So we came to ask you about your findings. On Lord Strongart's advice. Very well. If the Lord Chief Justice has given his consent, I'll tell you what our investigation revealed. But when we're done, you must leave immediately. Okay. I guess we're not allowed to look around then. Well, we found what we needed, so... So, you want to know what the forensic investigation team determined from its examination of the scene? The victim, Mr. Odie Asman, who disappeared from the experimentation scene amid an explosion, and the Mr. Asman who appeared moments later, partway up the Crystal Tower, were without question one and the same person. That is the team's conclusion. But that can't be right. If it was an elaborate trick, we can only speculate about how it was carried out. Let's see, if two people who looked very similar to each other were involved, they could have made it appear as if one single person had switched places, couldn't they? Very true, but sadly, in this instance, that was not the case. The man who disappeared and the man who subsequently reappeared was the same person. The fingerprints at the scene make that quite evident. Oh, fingerprints! Ah, fingerprints. They're not yet officially recognized as forensic evidence in the British justice system, but one day they will be used as an investigative aid as a matter of course. Oh my, but that would mean that the instantaneous kinesis actually took place. So, where does that leave us? My team was tasked with investigating, not drawing conclusions. Instantaneous kinesis is impossible, and yet the body did move from one place to the other. This hasn't cleared anything up at all. It's made the whole thing even more of a mystery. Welp. Oh. Mama, what is this? Ah! Where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? This is a lawyer, dear. Oh. Hello. To meet you. Pleased to meet you. Yes, I'm a defense lawyer. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Mama? Yes. Can I cut this one up? What? Now that was a what from both me and Ryunosuke there. Jesus Christ. I've never seen inside an Eastern person before. I want to know what it looks like. Of course you can't. It's a live specimen, as you can very well see. Well, this isn't unsettling at all. Humph. Boring. I think I just had a near-death experience. Oh dear, Mr. Naruhodo, you're as pale as a corpse. Then let's leave before I'm mistaken for one. Okay, I think... I assume that's all we have here, since she's like, oh, you need to leave after we speak. So, I guess let's have a go at the prison. See how Mr... Oh, Jesus Christ. Where did he get that chalk from? What's he doing? He's... Oh my! The whole wall of the cell is covered in mathematical equations. And he's still writing more now. Except not really. He's moving his hand, but nothing is appearing. Professor, sorry to interrupt. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. And who is this young lady? My name is Sasato Mikotova. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor. Oh, if only I'd met a refined young woman like you sooner. Sorry if that piqued the mic. None of this would have happened. No, that's not logical. That makes no sense at all. Oh dear, I'm sorry if my presence here upsets you. I owe you an apology too, Professor. I didn't manage to deliver what I promised you I would in court this morning. No. Oh no. No. The whole miserable affair. It all happened because I have been such a complete and utter clot. Professor Hairbrain? What have you been working on in your cell? Oh, haha, you mean that? Oh dear, how embarrassing. I was suddenly struck with an idea, or struck by an idea, you see, and I simply had to write it down. The wall was all I had to hand. Oh, is it some new hypothesis? Something to surpass super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, maybe? No, actually, this is my autobiography. Your autobiography? How I was diddled and fiddled by Albert Hairbrain. I have found I can represent my odd fortunes with only odd numbers in an ambitious set of simultaneous equations. Really? Wait a second. Wait a second. He said the wall was all he had on hand to write down his equations, and yet here he is with a fucking clipboard and a pen. Liar. I'm going to have to pay back all the loans I took for the kinesis machine, you see. So it's going to be a new serial publication from next month. Part 1, an odd upbringing. An odd birth, an odd upbringing. You can't beat the man's optimism, that's for sure. I see. Well, for now, would you mind if we talked a little more about the case? Oh, yes! Yes! Of course! I've been working through the numbers. I was diddled, I was fiddled by the pair of them, by Asmund and by that aloof engineer Drebber. We're not going to have to sit through an explanation of all these equations, are we? Alright, let's have ourselves a chat. Everything I believed in has been turned on its head. My research, Mr. Asmund, the kinesis machine, my hypothesis even. I'm sorry it's come to this. There really was no other way. No, it's not your fault. I wanted to protect my work, but in the end, there was nothing worth protecting. It was never my intention to deceive anyone. I didn't want to trick the public. No, of course you didn't. But in court this morning, I realized something. Oh? If you've done something wrong without knowing it, You've still done something wrong. Logically, it makes no difference if you were aware or not. Ignorance is a poor excuse. The blame still lies with me. Oh, Professor. He believed in me this morning, you know, Baroque did. He believed in my hypothesis. Well, I think that was just a necessary factor in the prosecution establishing its case. No, Baroque wouldn't do such a thing, something like that. I'm sure he genuinely believed it. Did he? I think I understand now. Why it was that he decided to take on the prosecution in my trial, I mean. Oh? Van Zeek's motivation. After the terrible accident happened, nobody would believe my hypothesis anymore. Not the police, not the prosecution service, not any lawyers even. I feel like I dealt some kind of finishing blow there. So if any other prosecutor had taken the case, if it was anyone other than Baroque, I'm sure the prosecution would have declared my hypothesis a complete and utter nonsense. And in that case, you would have been declared a fraud yourself, Professor. Exactly, which would have been a worse fate than death for me. But Baroque insisted that I was a proper man of science from start to finish. You think that's why? You think that's why he... I thought that was Cisato speaking now. I know him very well indeed. He's an extremely kind-hearted soul. But that extremely kind-hearted soul spent all morning trying to paint you as a murderer, didn't he? Well, admittedly, that part of the analysis appears to have some flaws in it. What about the whole Reaper side of things? How does that fit in with the kind-hearted soul idea? Alright, what about Mr. Asman? Do you think he set out to trick me from the very start? I'm sorry to say, that does seem likely, yes. When I first met him, he introduced himself as a wealthy financier. He looked over the paper I'd written and said my work would benefit all humanity and must be pursued. He was so enthused. He was so empathetic. But in reality, he was the mastermind of some vast criminal network, it seems. I still can't believe it. As the machine was essentially a set decoration for some stage magic, it probably didn't require a large amount of investment, actually. But the scale of it wasn't just some small trick. It was a very elaborate feat of deception. All young scientists are full of hope about their burgeoning ideas, full of zeal. But none of us have any money. We want to do research, but we can't afford it. Again, apologies to any Germans watching this. Many of us take on barely legal part-time work to try and earn just a few measly pennies to carry on. To go through all of that, only to be taken for a complete fool, is too rotten to believe. It is, I agree. And that's why we have to find those responsible and bring them to justice. Mr. Asman is no more, of course, which leaves only the engineer. Mr. Enoch Drebber. Drebber, the engineer. Is he an engineer or a magician? Or a swindler? It was about a year ago when Mr. Asman first brought Drebber to meet me at my laboratory. Since then, I've met him many times to discuss details about the kinesis machine. But at no point did you have any inkling that he was just an illusionist? Oh, he definitely wasn't just an illusionist. What do you mean? He has a wealth of deep scientific knowledge. There's no question that the man's a genuine scientist. It's instantly apparent in conversation. I see. But the wretched man deceived you, Professor. It's unforgivable. We must do everything we can to find him and bring him to justice. Are there no more clues you can give us as to his whereabouts? I'm sorry, we only ever discussed the kinesis machine, nothing else. Also, just once, I did visit his workshop.
What workshop?
Jabba's enormous fabrication laboratory, where he constructed my great machine.
And you didn't think to mention that earlier?
Why didn't you mention this before? Enoch Drebba's workshop. There's every chance we might find the man there. Where is it, man?
So you've been to Drebba's place of work then?
Yes, just once, you understand. It was an enormous place. Plenty of room to construct the kinesis machine, you see.
Where can we find it? We have to get there at once. There's a good chance we'll find Drebba there.
Well, yes, definitely. I'm sure, I'm sure you're not going to want to hear this. But I have absolutely no idea where the workshop is at all. I'm so sorry.
I was more than half expecting that.
You see, I was blindfolded in the carriage the entire way there.
He blindfolded you? He wasn't taking any chances then.
The place was incredible. The pinnacle of modern engineering. Even the oil he used was the very best. A special French machine oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Ah, the indescribable scent of that imported oil. Perfumers across the world should forget their secret formula and use that instead.
What do you think, Mr. Sato? Ode a machine for your next birthday?
I've never used any kind of perfume, Mr. Naruhodo, and I'm not sure I'd like to start with that. I don't suppose you know even part of the workshop's address, Professor. You don't have a business card for Mr. Drebba, for example?
The man was clearly very cautious, Mr. Sato. I'm sure he never would have.
Aha! Yes, I do. He gave me his business card once. Right here, look. Let me see that.
Throw etiquette out to the wind, why don't you?
Enoch Drebba, engineer. I'm afraid that's all it says. There's no address.
No? Oh well. I can't say I'm...
Give it to the dog. The dog can track it. I can't say I'm surprised. Still, this could be useful.
Enoch Drebba's business card, though it only shows the man's name, there is no address.
I have an idea.
But first, let me check.
Aha! This dark smudge here. I think perhaps it's machine oil.
Ah yes, possibly. Professor Hairbrain mentioned something about the oil Mr. Drebba uses, didn't he? He said it was specially imported, very high-quality oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain.
Yes, that's right, but more importantly, that it's more fragrant than the finest perfume. So, excuse me for a moment. Oh, it doesn't appear to have any scent at all.
Don't worry, I expect that's just because there's such a tiny amount on here. There's a smear of machine oil on the reserve. Perfect. That's just what we need. Well, excuse me, Mr. Hairbrain, I have a dog to go see. Hey, Gina, can we borrow your dog for a second?
About this, Gina. Yeah, I'm still learning me letters at the moment. I only know A to E. So if it ain't too much bleeding trouble... actually, Gina, it's the back of the card that's important. Eh? How come? It's just a dirty old smudge on the back, that's all. It turns out that this is very high quality French machine oil. It has a very particular scent, apparently. You don't say. Let's have a whiff then. You sure? I don't smell nothing. No, we didn't mean that you should smell it. Oh, right. You mean Toby. Woof. His sense of smell is so good, he can track people over oceans, can't he? Professor Hairbrain informs us that this oil is unique to Mr. Drabber's workshop. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Sniff, sniff, sniff. I think he's picked up a scent. So you mean if he follows the scent of this oil, Toby could lead us to that dodgy cove's workshop? That's right, that's exactly what we were hoping. Alright then, we'll give it a go. I'll just borrow that. What? Wait, where did you... Once a pickpocket? Always a pickpocket. If I can lead everyone to that Drabber's workshop, I'll be the boss's boss before next week. Oh yes, Gina. I'm sure you'll be promoted. Poor Gregson. Right then, Odo, leave it to me. Sorry? We're gonna get going after that dodgy engineer cove right this minute. Oh, but hang on. Someone's supposed to be on guard duty here at the time. I'm afraid we can't help. We need to get on with our own investigation as well, Gina. Oh, right. Ah, well, never mind. It ain't gonna be me what gets it in the neck. It'll be the boss. Poor Gregson again. Ready, Toby? Got that oil scent, have ya? Come on then, boy. See you later. And off she goes. I hope the scent of that oil leads them to that swindler's workshop. Yes, I hope so too. Ideally before the dog swims across the channel to France. Well, I think we've done all the investigating we can here for now. If we could just determine the whereabouts of Mr. Drabble. I'm sure Gina and little Toby won't let us down. Now then. Do you think we ought to try to speak with Mr. Sholmes at this point? We have things to discuss and I'm dying to meet him again after all these months. Yes, it's quite possible he might know something useful, you're right. We ought to find him at Madame Tuspel's. He's supposed to be working there as a temporary waxwork exhibit. Yes, Iris told me all about his latest unusual venture. Alright, now we get to see Mr. Sholmes, and perhaps I won't be lying and the wax lady will actually be here. "23rd of October, Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxworks." Here we are again at the House of Horrors. I'm afraid I haven't gotten used to the place yet. I'd still like to turn on my heels and go straight home. Via the confectionery, of course. Susato-san really is after something sweet today, isn't she? What's the matter? Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that waxwork. I'm quite sure it wasn't there before. It looks exactly like Mr. Sholmes, down to the very last detail. Aha! What is it? Oh, sorry. I think you'll find that's the temporary waxwork himself. Ah, the friend of my dedicated employee. Oh yes, hello again. It's Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I wasn't lying, the wax lady is actually here. I must say, I am quite spellbound by the great detective. He is a marvel. My precious waxwork is already back where it belongs. You don't mean... But yes, the mystery is solved already. Wow, Mr. Sholmes can really engage his brain when he's hungry enough. So as you can see, he has returned to his habitual duties. Yes. his habitual duties. Alors, do not disturb, huh? Poor Susato-san, she looks very perplexed. Well, and she's gone again. She showed up briefly, and then, she's gone. We really do need to speak with Mr. Sholmes, and I am longing to say hello again. But where is he? I think you might find that he's quite nearby, actually. Oh! What are you... Indeed, my dear fellows, it is I! The world-famous great detective and waxwork, Sherlock Sholmes. Susato-san! Susato-san! Nice. Sad Sholmes. My most humble apologies. I thought I'd died and gone to eternal paradise for a moment, via London. My dear madame, allow me to make amends by offering you a tasty free deduction at some point. As long as it's not of questionable street food quality. I don't understand. Why are you working as a waxwork here, Mr. Sholmes? Merely a secret identity, you understand. Though the case is largely solved now. Largely solved? We're talking about the waxwork abduction, I presume. Oh, I need to stretch and fix my posture. Yeah. Indeed we are, my good fellow. As I predicted, it was easy as proverbial pie. Though I confess, I am yet to partake of a pie, proverbial or otherwise, or any food so far today, for that matter. My man's hungry. That stomach rumble echoed around the whole museum. So how did you manage to solve it so quickly? Ah, well, do remember I said it was largely solved. Anyway, I simply negotiated with the culprit. Are you familiar with the so-called telephone? Oh yes, it's a most modern invention, allowing you to hold a conversation with people far away. In Japan, only the imperial capital and a handful of other cities are connected as of yet. This morning, a telephone call was received here from the perpetrator of the abduction. As such, I was able to negotiate terms, and in the end, the waxwork has returned. That's amazing. Just between you and I, it would appear the culprit had always intended to return the stolen waxwork. In any event. Oh, but I thought whoever was responsible had demanded a ransom, no? Yes, I think perhaps. The ransom demand was necessary to avoid unwanted suspicion regarding the true motive. But does that not mean your negotiating was entirely unnecessary? So I'm guessing the reason why all of this is happening is that the waxwork was involved in the illusion of the instantaneous kinesis, and rather than melting it, he just like dropped it down the shaft. A fact that I must ask you keep from Madame Tuspel's at all costs. A hungry young Iris awaits my return to Baker Street, after all. Poor Iris. Now then, do I sense that you have some business with this great waxwork? Indeed we do. We're in the process of trying to track someone down. Oh? Yes, a man by the name of Enoch Drebel. He's the swindler who duped Professor Hairbrain and the engineer who built the kinesis machine. A swindler and an engineer. Quite the modern man. He also seems to be a conjurer of sorts too, with considerable knowledge of stage magic. We really need to locate him before the trial resumes tomorrow morning. But we have so few clues to go on. That's the trouble. Do you have any good ideas? I have no data yet. It is a capital mistake to have good ideas before one has data. If I knew something of the man's appearance, at least, I may be in a better position to help. Yes, Dreba's appearance. Well, then we'll show him the thing, but after we talk about the other point. Fortunately for you, however, I have presently little to occupy myself and little to fill my stomach. As soon as you find any clue, no matter how small, I should gladly give you my thoughts on it. And any food, no matter how small, I would gladly take it. Mr. Sholmes, did you lie to us? My dear Mr. Naruhodo, stay that piercing glare. What is this about? Last winter, when we were first on our way to Britain aboard the steamship, your words were very clear. So then, let us unravel this mystery and discover what events led to this curious murder. You told us that it was murder, and you examined Kazuma-sama's body. Indeed, and wherein lies the problem? We met him earlier today, the victim, Kazuma Asugi. You're quite sure? He was wearing some sort of mask, and was apparently suffering from amnesia. But yes, I'm quite sure. It was Kazuma-sama. You must have known at the time, Mr. Sholmes, that he wasn't actually dead. Well, I can only assume I was swept up in the murderous atmosphere of the moment. Fuck off, Sholmes. But the fellow wasn't dead at all? Priceless. I don't suppose that performance would pass muster, would it, Mr. Naruhodo? Mr. Naruhodo? I believe that the crewman present at the time made a mistake. I could believe that the crewman present at the time made a mistake. But not you, Mr. Sholmes. I will now tell you something of the first importance, my dear fellow. Great detectives are wont to lie. It will serve you well to remember that. Please, Mr. Sholmes. Tomorrow in court, you will find yourself on the threshold of a very great mystery. For now, I'm afraid that is all I can say. Well then. What do you have to say about this? Mr. Sholmes, would you cast your eyes over this photographic print? It's of Mr. Enoch Drabble, the face of the engineer we seek. Well, all Englishmen look broadly the same, of course. Yeah, all white people look the same. So looking at the photograph won't be particularly instructive. You're right, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes, forgive me. Very interesting, this. Very interesting indeed. What's wrong, Mr. Sholmes? You've turned quite pale all of a sudden. Is he actually the professor? I have a suggestion, Mr. Naruhodo. Will you indulge me? Oh, well, what is it? As I explained to you when you arrived, the missing waxwork has been returned, and I personally reinstalled it in the exhibit from which it was taken behind those thick curtains. Oh, yes, the Professor exhibit, isn't it? Would you like to see it for a mere 5 shillings? That's a special one-time only price, you understand. What? The opportunity won't come again, I might add. Wouldn't you like to see the fruits of my labor? Oh, well, we do have a rather pressing investigation to carry out. Perhaps we could postpone? The price is a very reasonable 5 shillings. I think you'll find it's well worth it. Are you being quite serious, Mr. Sholmes? Surely you need only look at my expression to ascertain the seriousness, if this is seriousness or silliness. I can never tell with you. That's the point. Very well, it couldn't hurt. Here's your 5 shillings. Gratefully received. So, the special exhibit awaits behind the curtain. I invite you to peruse it at your leisure. We're going to get in trouble, aren't we? We're going to look behind the curtains and then Madame Two Spells is going to show up and be like, what the hell are you doing? Well, the money's been spent, so let's go and see the special exhibit. Through those heavy curtains at last. $5 we've had to pay. Doesn't seem right somehow that Mr. Sholmes slipped the money into his own pocket, does it? No. We can ask Gina to retrieve it for us, using her special skills. Pickpocketing police officers and diddling detectives. Is this what makes Britain great? Not to mention demigod prosecutors taking the law into their own hands, or chip-loving inspectors. Inspector Gregson comes off rather well on that list, I think. Anyway, in we go. 23rd of October, Madame Tuspel's special exhibit. He's missing a head. What the fuck? Oh dear, I felt a shiver run down my spine as soon as we walked in here. Mr. Sato, I say we turn on our heels and go straight home, via a really big confectionery. We certainly can't do that. We've paid 5 shillings already. True. Gotta get your money's worth. Actually, now that I'm looking at it a little more closely, we've paid good money to see an exhibit that's clearly incomplete. The nerve of that great diddling detective is far more terrifying than anything else in this place. This must be what Mr. Sholmes meant when he said the case was largely solved. Be that as it may, why is the edge of the shovel pink? Mr. Sholmes heavily implied there'd be a clue about the engineer in here, didn't he? But where? Since we've paid 5 shillings, let's do 5 shillings worth of investigation, shall we? Yes, we will get what we paid for. Is that fear or frustration that's making Susato's voice tremble? I've got a dude that's missing a head. This must be the killer, the fiend known as the Professor. Yes, I think so. According to what Madame Tuspels said, he killed 5 victims, all of noble or royal blood. The waxwork is so lifelike, isn't it? Like all the models in this place. I know. Looks like it could start moving at any moment, doesn't it? If only it had a head, that is. Perhaps we should examine it in a little more detail. So this is the condemned man. Yes, the so-called professor. Then perhaps his head was chopped off by a guillotine. A guillotine, rather. But unable to find peace, he emerged from his grave as a headless ghost. Do we have to entertain such terrifying ideas, Mrs. Sato? Anyway, I'm sure the model had a head once. There's a metal fitting for it, see? Then perhaps Mr. Sholmes absent-mindedly forgot to reattach it? That's an extremely absent-minded detective you're describing, isn't it? Or perhaps the thief absent-mindedly forgot to include the head when he or she returned it to the museum. Just say they. And that would be an extremely absent-minded thief. Could there have been some reason why only the head wasn't returned? Well, whatever the reason, it means we don't know what the face of the infamous professor looked like, do we? There's something caught just inside the convict's jacket here. Oh, is there? Looks like a piece of broken glass. From the crystal tower, perhaps? Quite a big piece, too. It's very thick, isn't it? About 5 times thicker than normal window glazing, I'd say. Where could such a thick piece of glass have come from, I wonder? I suppose it must have been made thick to increase its strength? But why? Well, perhaps it's because the glass had to span a particularly wide area, such as in a big building, for example. Ah, well, I've seen a large glass building recently, haven't we? Oh, well, we've seen. And some of the glass was broken, too. You don't mean... Exactly, the Crystal Tower at the Great Exhibition. But why would glass from the Crystal Tower be lodged inside this waxwork's jacket? It makes you think, doesn't it? Well, earlier in court we established that the kinesis experiment was a trick, and now we discover this fragment of glass here in the waxwork. Is it just a coincidence? Doubt. There's nothing else? Why did they bother zooming in then? Why didn't we just look at it the first time? What about you? This part of the exhibit is just as disturbing as the rest. It looks so real. It seems to be a young man in a white overcoat. And he has a large shovel in his hand too, look. Perhaps we should investigate in a little more detail. Huh? Why are we down? Okay, oh, so we can do this, can we? We have a camera, I think. What's this here? Well, this would appear to be a lens in the middle, so I believe it's probably a camera. A camera? But it's so small. British technology is incredible, isn't it? I mean, what about Mr. Sholmes' skin prints? I think perhaps you should treat Mr. Sholmes' inventions as exceptions to the rule. But anyway, why would the man be in a graveyard at night with a camera? I wonder. Perhaps he was trying to capture the moment a dead body came back as a ghost on film. We'll just borrow this for a little while, I think. Why? By looking at the photographic plate inside the camera, we can see what picture was taken. What's a photographic plate? It's a piece of glass coated in a special emulsion that reacts to the light coming in through the lens. If we open the cover at the back of the camera, we should be able to find it. Let's have a look. You should see for yourself, Susato-san. Your eyes are shining. You really do like machinery, don't you? What about the face? I can't see his face very well. Can you? Perhaps if I just... Oh, do you think we should be manhandling the exhibits, Mr. Naruhodo? I'll put exactly as it was, don't worry. Ah! What on earth? How can... I don't believe it. A black monocle. Is it black? Oh, hold on. Let me... Oh, we can't see that side of the monocle, so we don't know for certain. But it does look like him. A black monocle. Mr. Naruhodo, is it possible that this man is... Yes. It's Enoch Drebber. The color of his hair is different, but it's unmistakably him. Was that Susato? I don't know. Indeed it is. Oh no, that was Sholmes. Indeed it is. Mr. Sholmes. This man is the subject of your present aunt, I believe. Yes, that's right. Just who is this man? Why is he here in this exhibit? And why does the convict behind him have no head? The head was missing when the model was returned by the thief who stole it. What a surprise. So then the case isn't yet solved, is it? Did I not say so myself? Largely solved were my words, I believe. But I must locate the missing head. Tout de suite? Tout de suite? I don't speak French! As Madame would say, or I'll be in grave trouble. A very hungry Iris still awaits my return to Baker Street, preferably with rations. Ah! Do you know, though, something about this room is strange. Strange? What do you mean? Well, the displays in the House of Horror are supposed to depict real events, are they not? Indeed they are, Mr. Sato. Do go on. And as terrifying as they are, the scenes in the other exhibits are believable. But this one... This surely couldn't ever really have happened, could it? I think it's time I educated you a little about the nature of the incidents involving the professor 10 years ago. Well then. I believe I told you a little about the professor yesterday, did I not? He took the lives of 5 victims, everyone being either a member of the aristocracy or royalty. All were attacked by an enormous hunting hound that had their throats ripped from their bodies. Hound of the Baskervilles. And that's where the collar comes in, probably. Oh gosh, an enormous hound? How awful. That was a British accent. Oops. After taking the life of his fifth victim, the killer was apprehended. It was a case of unprecedented magnitude in Britain, you understand, accordingly. The professor was tried in a closed court. No members of the public were permitted. A closed court? So you mean that the professor's identity... As you've surmised, my dear fellow, his identity was never made public. Naturally, he was found guilty, and was summarily sentenced to death by hanging. He was buried in a grave at Lowgate Cemetery, which adjoins the rear of the prison where he had been held. However, that was not the end of the affair. Oh. The very night that he was buried, the convicted man came back to life. Came back to life? He clawed his way out of the ground and emerged into the moonlit graveyard. The exhibit here depicts that very scene, as described by the sole witness to those chilling events. There was a witness? But of course, my dear fellow, it was none other than the young man in the white overcoat. Enoch Drebber. He saw it happen? And we're just going to leave it at that? What happened after? Did they, like, catch him again and hang him again? So this is a waxwork model of Enoch Drebber. 10 years ago, the convicted professor, having been gibbeted and buried, emerged from his grave in the dead of night. The sole witness to that unimaginable scene was this young man. From appearances, I would say he was about 20 years old. It's so horrifying. Scared out of his wits, the young Drebber ran to a nearby police station to report the incident. And the sheer terror of what he'd seen is said to have turned his hair white overnight. Yes, as shown in the photograph we have of him, his hair is completely white. I don't think that's how it works. But okay. For the following few days, the story of what he'd seen was on every front page in the capital. The public was frantic for every last detail about the killer who'd come back to life. As you've seen, an exhibit was even crafted here at Madame Two Spells. I can quite understand why the man's hair turned white, certainly. But what I don't understand is what Mr. Drebber was doing in the first place. in a lonely graveyard in the middle of the night. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. We should check this, shouldn't we? Oh look, the cover came open. Yes, and now there should be a glass plate inside. You have to change the plate with each new photograph you want to take, you see. Is something wrong? There is no plate. It's been removed. Ah, what a pity. But I suppose if you think about it, this wouldn't be the actual camera that was used at the time, just like the waxwork isn't the actual person. So we'd never have found a photographic print of the executed convict coming back to life anyway. Oh, yes, you're quite right, of course. Pauses out to San, she looks devastated. Okay, well, that's, how the hell is this going to be relevant? What a wonderful machine. You really love contraptions like this, don't you? Oh yes, anything mechanical I find absolutely irresistible. Wait a second, that's blood. That's a blood stain. Almost irresistible, surely. Well, whenever I see a pocket watch, for example, I can't help myself. I simply have to take it apart. That's worrying. Yes, father tells the time by the rumblings of his stomach now. He's given up having a watch. Poor Professor Mikitoba. There's a blood stain, what the fuck? Look, Mr. Naruhodo. What is it? On the bellows, just here, there seems to be some very dark red stains. Yes, you're right. It looks like blood, actually. Oh my. I'm sure it's not what you're thinking. Well, good thing I investigated that. Let me quickly examine this. Nothing of import. And if I do this, oh, we can actually look at the whole heckin' thing here. Look here, Miss Susato. Oh yes, the wood's cracked and broken a little. I suppose because it fell from such a height? Yes, from the height at which the balloon was flying down to the crystal tower below. A fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters. Leaving the man inside tragically dead. Causing damage to its base. Okay. Good thing I checked that, then. Yes, what was he up to? Following the execution. The professor's acts of terror threw London's upper classes into complete panic 10 years ago. It was a great scandal, one might say. At the very highest levels of society. And since the killer's identity was never made public, rumors abounded. After all, no killer had ever before systematically employed a dog as a murder weapon. Yes, I can imagine the impact the case must have had. But in time, of course, the rumors abated. So too did talk of the shocking witness account of the convict who came back to life. It was forgotten, dismissed as a dubious ghost story. As a preposterous parlor tale. But why did people stop believing it? Why, simply because there was no resurrection to speak of, as was established in fact. What do you mean by no resurrection? The police investigated the grave in Lowgate Cemetery and published their findings. The convict's body was found to be buried exactly where it had been following the execution. No! But that would mean Mr. Drebber must have lied to the police and the newspapers. He is a swindler! That would appear to be the only logical explanation, yes. The young man subsequently vanished from society and nothing has been heard of him since. It's rather striking, then, that he should resurface now, don't you think? Of course the convicted murderer couldn't have come back to life, that's not possible. But Drebber's hair is unusually white. And if that really did happen overnight as a result of shock, it's hard to believe the incident was an out-and-out lie. Maybe he did come back to life. Ah! Maybe he did come back to life, and the current Enoch is actually the professor, and he like killed the real Enoch and buried him where he had been, and that's why his hair is a different color now. What the bleeding no, Otto? What are you gotten done now? Or what are you gotten done? Gina, what are you doing here? I asked Iris and she said this is where you'd be, so... Gina, not so loud at the museum. Madame Two Spells will have you take a position as a waxwork if you're not careful. I think there might be a more pressing concern. I still had some flash powder left from 6 months ago, so... Alright, Gina, we understand, but please, put down the gun. She's angry. Sorry, I got scared. Should try being the one on the other end of the barrel. So what brings you here, Gina? What brings me here? What do you think? We found it. We found that dodgy cove's workshop. What? You found Drebber's workshop? Yep. Toby's nose took me straight there. The boss and the others are heading over there now in an hour and a drag, so come on. Here's the address. I got the boss to write it out. Oh, thank you, Gina. We'll make our way there at once. Alright then, see you there. Rightio. You go, don't mind me. I'll just stay here, being still. What? I know my place, in the exhibit over there. Where did your eyes go? Huh? Was that supposed to be like, oh, his eyes are closed? Or maybe it was supposed to be that effect where, like, you know, someone's hat or hair or whatever is, like, casting their eyes in shadow and you can't see their eyes. His hat was not low enough. That shadow was not dark enough. It did not look like he had eyelids. His eyes were just gone. What the fuck? Oh dear. Someone is feeling sorry for himself. My dude, where are your fucking eyes? Let's go, Mr. Sholmes. You're coming. Your words harden me, I must say, but if I were to shirk my duties here, Madame would have me pay monetary recompense, and Iris's dinner plate would be empty once more. Forget that, I'll pay everything. Then there's not a moment to lose, my dear fellows. I shall hail a carriage at once. No offer to share the cost from Mr. Sholmes, then. I shall gladly pay half, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you, Mr. Sato. Right, let's go. Wonderful. Oh hey, it's a kinesis machine. Enoch Drebber's workshop. Is that... Oh, a quiver of arrows. That looks like... Oh, it's another super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine. It would appear so, though only a prototype, naturally. Ah, so you got here then. Gina, well done for finding this place. And in such little time. You've really worked miracles. It's Toby here what's the miracle worker. Woof. Ah, thought you lot would show up before long. Why are your eyes closed? Hello, Inspector. That's one knitted brow. He looks like he's eating a lemon, not a bag of fish and chips. So, Inspector, is there any sign of the engineer? Sadly not. We didn't find a single soul in here. Oh, what a shame. Well, thank you for letting us know about this place and giving us a chance to investigate. According to what Gina tells me, we only found it thanks to a clue that you lot turned up. I wouldn't want to, say, go to Paris with a debt of gratitude unpaid now, would I? Thank you. Anyway, if you open a snoop around here, I'd get cracking.
Lord Van Zeeks and the forensic investing team are on their way here as we speak.
Them again.
I imagine you've got the picture by now. They don't take too kindly to lawyer types.
Right. So then, my dear fellow, let's turn this place upside down whilst we have the chance.
And you, Sholmes.
Pardon?
They take even less kindly to great detectives than they do lawyers.
Ha 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 ha! Very droll, Gregson, very droll. But you may consider me nothing more than an inconspicuous waxwork model. Put your eyes back on. It's fucking creepy. Right then, let's see what we can find here. I guess this time we'll investigate first and then we'll speak to Gregson. I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. That machine is covered by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. There would be serious repercussions if you were to examine it, from the Crown and the government. Well, those two don't seem to be holding back. It's quite hollow inside. No working parts or devices of deception to be seen, my dear fellow. No loose change dropped on the floor or nothing. Not even a bone for Toby here, my dear fellow. British people are very much ruled by their own ideals, aren't they? I think that's just these two, Mr. Sato. This door doesn't want to open. Yeah, looks like it's got a pretty hefty lock on it.
There's a specialist locksmith on his way over from the yard, so hands off till he gets here.
With permission, Inspector, I could have that lock open in less than a minute.
Well, you don't have permission.
And no one's given it to you. Gregson looked as though he really enjoyed that. Well, there's no sound of anybody on the other side. No, Drebber must have fled at the first sign of danger. Sign of danger, rather. This is... It's a European-style quiver of arrows, with steel bolts inside. Oh, do you suppose... Crossbow bolts, these.
And just the right size for the bow you turned up at the exhibition grounds.
In other words...
Yep. That's more evidence to support your theory. It all goes to show that Drebber was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes of the whole scam.
Crossbow, found hidden under the tree. It belongs to Mr. Enoch Drebber. Oops. What about this here trophy? Ah, this appears to be most interesting. Yes, most interesting indeed, wouldn't you say? And it's an impressive looking back massager, that's for sure. I've no doubt that if you hit your shoulders a few times with that, your aches and pains would soon go away. It's a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science. A young scientist could wish for no higher honor. Ah. What the fuck? Would you like a massage? No, I'm fine, thank you. I had no idea it was such a grand thing. I think it's becoming increasingly clear that there's much more to this Mr. Enoch Drebber than conjuring tricks. I couldn't agree more, my dear madame. And how about you, Mr. Naruhodo? Mr. Naruhodo, wouldn't you like to take it with you? For your tired shoulders, of course. He's not going to let that go, is he? It's curious, though, isn't it? You wouldn't expect such an important trophy to be... You would expect such an important trophy to be proudly on display somewhere, not haphazardly cast aside. English gentlemen can be quite a mystery at times. The science trophy. I didn't get to speak to Gregson. Oh! Is something wrong, Mr. Sato? Well, I thought I heard a noise from the far side of that door. Well, Gina, did you hear it too? Yeah, I heard it all. What do you reckon, Toby? Woof woof. Mind the grease. Whoever's in there, open up. This is Scotland Yard. They're running away, probably. Yep. Oh my, someone is in there. Ah, this rotten bleeding lock. My dear Gregson, as I said only minutes ago, if only it were countenanced, I could unlock that door in less than a minute. Fine, I'll take the rap for it. Just get us through that blasted door. Yep, you may enter at will. You've confused minutes with seconds, I think. Time is of the essence, I feel. What are we waiting for? Nothing forward, I suppose. It's an emergency. There's a strong possibility that beyond that door is the engineer you all seek. Be prepared for action, my dear fellow. Yes. Well, probably not, because we heard him running away. Why are there footprints on the ceiling? What's happened in here? That's a bomb. Why is everything upside down? Rats, there's no one in here after all. But there must be. It was only minutes ago we heard the noises. Maybe that was the sound of Drebber running away. But there's only one door into this room. And no windows that could afford an escape route. Those skylights are too high. Eh? What's that up there? Are they footprints on the ceiling? Blow me, what do we have here then? Y'all are just ignoring the fucking bomb in the center of the room? Looks like someone was trying to burn something in a hurry. Oh, that looks like a set of blueprints. To what? Damn Professor Hairbrain's balmy machine, is it? Blimey, if we'd had these, there'd have been no need to muck about trying to investigate all that scrap metal. There is something of great interest here, too. This rope was lying on the floor at the foot of that pillar. A rope? What's significant about that? Never mind. You see, but you do not observe, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo. I keep forgetting that I have to pronounce it wrong when Sholmes is speaking. We must investigate the entire room thoroughly before the forensic investigation team arrive too. Well, let's start with this fucking bomb at the center of the room. Mr. Sholmes, have you found something? Ah, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, in point of fact, something rather fascinating. What do you make of this? Let's see. I've never seen anything like it before. It looks like a bundle of thick cigars wrapped in a large watch to me, but... Ah! Mr. Sato, what's the matter? That's a... Surely that's a time bomb, isn't it? What? Did you say... Time bomb? Sorry, but what is a time bomb exactly? Hey! Ha ha ha! You truly are one of a kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I won't take it as a compliment. Ha! You don't know nothing, do you, Odo? You haven't got a clue what it is either, have you, Gino? I invite you to consult a dictionary later, Mr. Naruhodo. But this particular specimen is no time bomb, though I confess it has a very similar appearance. Oh, well, thank goodness. But then, what is it? I see, so that's it. Eh? Goodness, Mr. Sholmes. Have you seen the heart of the matter? There are times when I consider my lot most unfair. For I am fated to never know.
how it feels to flounder as you do when a puzzle presents itself. But I have learned to accept the hardships that come with being a great detective, Mr. Sato. Can you just fucking speak like a normal person? Here we go. I feel a great deduction coming. Once again, I can draw two conclusions from the scene. Oh, okay, so that's what's coming. We don't get to look at the rest of the room. We just get this. I can draw two conclusions from the scene we see before us. The first is that the inverted nature of the furniture in this room is the work of Drebber himself. Oh, but how could you? And the second conclusion is that the small device on the floor here is without question completely genuine. Please, Mr. Sholmes, you must explain everything. It would be a pleasure. After all, it is a great detective's civic duty to teach Scotland Yard the finer points of the trade. Well, Inspector Gregson seems delighted with the idea anyway. Oh, you deflected the inspector's glare with such fortitude there, Mr. Sholmes. Well done. You're too kind, my dear madame. I hereby dedicate this great deduction to you. Kindly stand there, Mr. Sato. Oh, yes, I'd be delighted. So, shall we begin? Once again, Sherlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Here we go. Oh man, even in this silhouette, you can very clearly see he doesn't have the pipe to his mouth. Topic number 1, flipped furniture. It is plain to see that this room is in complete disarray. The bed, the table, the chairs, the lamp, everything is upside down. Almost as if every item in the room had until recently been happily positioned on the ceiling, before falling straight down to the floor, onto the floor. Every item in the room is on the ceiling? Are you suggesting that... Oh hey, there's a fucking safe code on the bottom of the fucking chair. Indeed, the key here is gravity. It would appear that technology has at last succeeded us in freeing us from the great pull of the Earth. What the fuck are you talking about? For the gravity in this room was reversed and then suddenly restored to normality. Goodness! The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. I quite understand your skepticism, Mr. Sato. I too was incredulous at first. However, my conviction in my analysis was cemented when I observed this. An anti-gravity device, almost identical to one that featured in a dream of mine only the other day, in fact. But then why does it have a clock on it? A most relevant question indeed. That is a timing device that controls when the gravity direction will switch. There was clearly a requirement for the engineer to be able to restore normal gravity automatically. And the commotion we heard earlier on from the other side of the door was the moment that restoration occurred. Yes, the reason why everything here has been turned upside down is because of the anti-gravity device. So you see, we need look no further than the state in which we now find this room. The direction in which gravity acts in here was reversed by Mr. Drebber, before being restored to normality in an automatic fashion sometime later by the timer device. I have witnessed precisely this scene in a dream I once had when I fell out of bed. Okay, Mr. Sholmes. Because gravity was reversed, sure. Now what about the missing engineer? Now let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer friend's aim? Indubitably, the greatest clue we have to explain his actions is above our heads. Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up there on the ceiling?
A question whose answer will lead us neatly to the truth, my dear madame. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight. Of course, Mr. Drebber's aim was singular, to escape. However, there is but one way into this room, excepting the skylight, that is. Ah. By inverting the gravity in here, Drebber was able to fall conveniently to the ceiling and make his escape via the otherwise inaccessible skylight, leaving those footprints behind on the way. But the ceiling in here is very high, Mr. Sholmes. If the gravity reversal was sudden, wouldn't Mr. Drebber have fallen up the ceiling? Fallen up to the ceiling rather violently? Falling up is both scientifically and physiologically a rather interesting concept, I feel. But the man was cornered with nowhere to run, so escape through the skylight was his only option. You may recall that I found this in the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution. Oh, the rope. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? By anchoring one end to the wall, the man was able to lower himself safely to the ceiling. Which explains how Drebber was able to escape this room before our arrival. He reversed the pull of gravity and fled via the skylight. And personally, I should very much like to reverse the pull of gravity again now, just for fun. Escaped via the skylight. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. Okay. I agree, Gregson. She's completely spellbound. Mr. Sholmes, there is just one thing that troubles me. I would expect nothing less. You're destined to be troubled by just one more thing for the rest of your life. The thing is such a thing actually possible? An anti-gravity device, I mean. I would say that with the man's current scientific knowledge at the turn of the 20th century, it is no more possible than instantaneous kinesis. But your whole deduction hinges on it. Ah, but my dear fellow, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. However improbable it may seem. That is actually a Sherlock Holmes quote, isn't it? Hold on. When you eliminate the impossible. Yeah, that is an actual Sherlock Holmes quote. When you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. I'm pretty sure they've brought that up in the Ace Attorney series before, but... Or maybe it was in a different mystery series. I have played so many mystery games. It's a marvelous line, wouldn't you agree? One of my more enduring pearls of wisdom. I had Iris come up with the exact phrasing. My original was clumsy. Yes, I have a feeling I've read it in something that Mr. Sato lent me once. Eh? Actually, there is one other thing, Mr. Sholmes. The spell's broken at last. The rope you found was on the floor, wasn't it? Indeed it was, in lonely coils near the wall. But if Mr. Drebber had used it to escape in the way you described, wouldn't it still be tied to the wall? Mysteries inevitably unravel in the end, as I think you'll find, do ropes. And evidence of such, you need only look at the mystery we faced in this room, now skillfully unraveled. That argument is as circular as the coils of rope. I think perhaps we might need to give Mr. Sholmes the usual little helping hand. I'm sure with some minor corrections, the great detective's great deduction will lead us to the truth. Yes, you're right. And we must do it quickly before Enoch Drebber gets too far away. If you're ready, then let us resume. Sherlock Sholmes' logic and reasoning spectacular. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. It's plain to see that this room is in complete disarray. The bed, the table and chairs, the lamp, everything is upside down. Almost as if every item in the room had until recently been happily positioned on the ceiling, before falling straight down to the floor. Every item in the room was on the ceiling? Are you suggesting that there's a fucking safe code there? Indeed, the key here is gravity. It would appear that technology has at last succeeded in freeing us from the great pull of the Earth. For the gravity in this room was reversed, and then suddenly restored to normality. Goodness! The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. To think gravity could have been reversed in this very room, I find the whole idea utterly enthralling. Only Mr. Sholmes could conceive of such an explanation. But the man himself admitted it was a scientific impossibility, so... Yes, you're quite right. We must completely discount the idea at once. Ooh, that's unusually merciless of you, Mrs. Sato. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. The great detective himself said so, didn't he? While refusing to part with his dreams of anti-gravity devices. Yes, I suppose so. Well, let's see if examining this topsy-turvy scene a little more closely reveals some proof that shows exactly what the gravity in this room was or wasn't doing. Well, the safe isn't upside down. Oh, but it looks like it might be bolted down. Look, Mrs. Sato. When everything seems to be upside down in here, this safe is conspicuously the right way up. Have you noticed? Yes, that's true. But look more closely at the safe's feet. Ah, that's a lot of very large bolts fixing it to the floor. Think before you speak. That's what you wanted to say, isn't it? I really put my foot in my mouth there. I certainly didn't say that. Okay, so, I was wrong. Wait, so it's all just inverted furniture and then there's the safe. Wait a second. Wait a fucking second. Well, I wasn't just find a pretty bunch of flowers here, that's for sure. Ah, look at that. I know. That slender little vase looks like it's about to topple at any moment, but the flowers are thriving. Somehow it makes you think of the fragility of life, wouldn't you say? To be honest, Mr. Naruhodo, something else about it made a rather deeper impression on me. The fact that it's upright. The upright vase clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, you've surpassed yourself by completely turning my argument on its head. Trying to impress your assistant here, perhaps? No one is trying to steal your spotlight here, Mr. Sholmes, trust me. As you rightly say, though it appears at first glance that all furniture in the room is upside down. This unassuming slender vase is standing keenly to attention. And unlike the large safe here, there is nothing affixing it to the floor. And it's the exception that breaks the rule. In short, much as it pains me, the gravity in this room was never inverted at all. My deepest sympathies for your loss. Oh, poor Mr. Sholmes. But the show must go on, so let us continue with our deductions. And now that we know this Contrivance is not in fact an anti-gravity device, there remains but one other possibility. You don't say. Someone deliberately turned over every piece of furniture here. Which might sound obvious, but leaves one mystery very much unsolved. Namely, why would anyone choose to do that? Quite, and naturally there is an explanation. Yes, the reason why everything here has been turned upside down is because of the anti-gravity device. He's absolutely determined that this device must have something to do with it, isn't he? I'm afraid the lure of an exciting scientific explanation is too strong. Well, there's no doubt that there's no doubt that somebody did this. Somebody turned all this furniture over. So whoever it was must have had a reason. I'm afraid nothing comes to mind at all, though. Well, let's look around and see if the answer presents itself. Well, it's probably this. Let's have a look. Look, there's something written on the underside of this armchair. Oh yes, safe 432582. Safe? As in safe and secure? As in secure lockable box, I think. Admittedly more likely. Well, there is a large safe bolted to the floor on the other side of the room, so yes. So you mean this number would let us open it? I wonder why it's written here, though.
Take that!
Bam! Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the safe combination. Precisely, I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that you had a very similar experience once, did you not? Yes, last year, when I bought a lottery ticket and noted the ticket number down on the inside cover of a book, just in case. That's it. For people are forgetful souls at heart, and always make a written note of important information. Just keeping the ticket itself safe would be more sensible, I think. And what, pray, happened next, Mr. Naruhodo? When the day of the draw came around, I'd forgotten which book I'd written the number in, and had to turn my room upside down to find it. That's it! For people are forgetful souls at heart, and always forget where they've noted things down. Not if you always note things in the same place. I actually won the second prize, you know. But I couldn't remember which magazine I'd slipped the ticket into, so I turned my room upside down. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo, but I believe I've proved my point now. Which is that a very similar scenario has clearly unfolded in this room. Finding himself requiring access to the safe, the occupant of this room needed the combination code. He remembered that he'd written it on the underside of a piece of furniture, but forgot which one. Leading to the state in which we now find the room. Yes, Mr. Drebber overturned all the furniture in here, in a desperate hurry to locate the combination code that would unlock the safe. Da-da-da-da. Solved. Now, let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer friend's aim? Indubitably, the greatest clue we have to explain his actions is above our heads. Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up there on the ceiling? A question whose answer will lead us neatly to the truth, my dear madame. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight. Well, if a change in the direction of gravity can't explain it, then how did those footprints get there? Yes, I feel as though that particular mystery has just become even harder to solve. I can't think of any other way to explain it at all. Oh, life was so much simpler in those halcyon days where gravity could be reversed. It was minutes ago, and those halcyon days never existed in the first place. Well, I suppose we must put our faith in Mr. Sholmes and observe the area in more detail. Putting our faith in Mr. Sholmes is what gets us into these situations in the first place. There's a balloon. Oh, hello. It's hard to believe, but there's a shoe up there, look. Oh yes, and there are more footprints on this little balloon too. Perhaps the shoe was thrown up there and became lodged, do you think? If so, then judging from the number of footprints, it must have been thrown up several times. Why would anyone be throwing shoes up at the ceiling, though? Oh dear, that's beyond me, I'm afraid.
Take
It's the shoe! The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby shoe. On closer inspection, there are clearly footprints all over the balloon as well. In other words, the aim was never at the skylight at all, but the balloon. But for what purpose? The green balloon? That seems somewhat familiar. That seems somewhat familiar data. Ah. There was a piece of a green balloon envelope that Mr. Naruhodo and Iris found at the scene. And inside the green balloon that Master Gotts claimed he saw above the stage when the incident occurred was the second birdcage, the crux of the whole instantaneous kinesis deception. You mean to say, if we assume the balloon in here is a model of the one used on the day, there is a strong possibility something may be concealed inside it. Something our absconder was desperate to retrieve before making a hasty getaway. But the balloon's just out of reach. Hence why he resorted to a projectile, namely the shoe. Ah. Most probably, Drebber intended to tear a hole in the envelope by assailing it with the shoe. However, his efforts were thwarted when the shoe itself became a prisoner of those lofty heights. Oh dear, we desperately need to examine that balloon. If only there was some way we could see inside. You may recall I found this in the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution. Oh, the rope. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? Mr. Sharps has managed to bring the deduction back to the rope. Alright, I have to admit it, that was clever. So we just throw the rope up at the balloon and then pull it down to us on the ground? Which is much easier said than done, I feel. It could take us a very long time as well. True. Perhaps we need a more surefire method. In fact, we already have one, of course, don't we? Crossbow. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this crossbow? That was found at the scene, in fact. In all likelihood, it belongs to Mr. Drebber. If the man had only brought it away with him that day, he could have avoided losing a shoe at such a critical time as this. So, shall we? Your curiosity is deeply stirred, no doubt, my dear fellows. What is it that Enoch Drebber has hidden inside that balloon? Bam! What the? Is that the head of the waxwork? A waxwork? Well now. Indeed it is, a waxwork head inside a metal mask. A mask that is shut tight and fastened with a strong and quite impenetrable lock. So we can't see the face inside, that means. Just a moment, this is the head of a waxwork model. Does that mean... Oh goodness. I see you've joined the dots, Mr. Sato. Excellent. Ah, of course, a headless waxwork model. The case of the abducted Madame Tuspel's model that you'd largely solved. It was only the head of the killer that was still missing. Indeed it was. But I believe Madame Tuspel's will now have to settle her sizable account with me. This, as you have now surmised, is the head of the infamous professor. Yes. But why is it here? This conclusively confirms my suspicions. The man responsible for stealing the professor from Madame Tuspel's and returning it sans... I don't speak French. Earlier today was none other than Enoch Drebber. This is incredible. Professor Hairbrain's case and the waxwork abduction are... They're inextricably linked by Enoch Drebber's workshop. The waxwork head. Now back to the deduction. Well, it appears our logical pleasure cruise has come to an end, my dear fellows.
All that remains is, yes, to speak with the architect of this adventure.
The architect? You mean Mr. Drebber?
It seems quite impossible that he escaped via one of the skylights. Obviously, the man must still be here in the room.
What?
And his location should be abundantly clear. If you simply reflect on the journey we've made together during this deduction.
Enoch Drebber is right here somewhere in this room?
So, Mr. Naruhodo, will you do the honors?
Yes, of course. Mr. Drebber's hiding place must be the safe.
Take that!
Yeah. Before we gained access to this back room, we heard noises from here. Which tells us that the engineer was still in the building at that point in time. He was in fact searching for the combination to his safe. And pressed for time, made no attempt to right the furniture he overturned in the process. From which we can deduce that his search for the combination happened very recently indeed. In summary, Mr. Enoch Drebber is at this very moment inside the safe. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. I'm going to continue on until we finish the investigation segment, because I feel like we're very close to the end. And then we'll do the actual trial whenever I stream next. Or whenever I stream Ace Attorney next. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I think perhaps it's time we ended this game of hide-and-seek, don't you? By opening the safe, you mean? What else? Let's see. The combination was 1... 432-582. I know that. Alright then, here goes. He's not going to be in there. It's going to be like a secret passage. Nope, he's in there. Okay. You found me. What the hell? You good, my dude? My man's got his own theme song and everything. Right then, sir. Mr. Enoch Drebber, I presume. Correct. You'd better start talking. You tricked Professor Hairbrain with that bogus machine you built. And you shall have to explain the theft of the waxwork from Madame Tuspel's as well. Whilst I would be delighted to answer your many questions... What the fuck? Personally, I would advise that you deactivate my little parcel first. Deactivate? Your parcel? I refer, of course, to the time bomb. I left it in a most prominent position. Ah! Ha ha ha. I see. Stunned silence. You're all gearing up to die with me, then? I feel like I should make him sound robotic. No! Mr. Sholmes, with only 7 seconds to spare. That was too close for comfort. I've got 1 foot in the grave already. Are you trying to help us? Are you trying to help us get a killer or get us killed? Mr. Sholmes' deductions can be completely life-altering, can't they? Well, my dear fellows, that was a close shave. The resemblance to an anti-gravity device is quite startling, I must say. Anti-gravity devices don't exist. Phew. I wouldn't want to push it, Mr. Sholmes. Alright. What do you have to say for yourself, Mr. Drubble. What on earth happened in here? You've heard me, haven't you? No need to screw me down any further. Everything in here is precisely what it seems. Yeah, well, we'll be giving it a thorough going over, don't you worry, Drubber. What fails to click with me is how you were able to locate my workshop. This was not that I was not expecting. When I heard whistling from the other room, I knew it was time to bolt. Whistling? Ah, that would have been me. Oh. For some reason, I woke in a fine fettle today. No words, just tightly squeezed chips. Clearly, I must have a screw loose, though, as I couldn't remember the combination for the safe. And another one loose, I couldn't remember on which piece of furniture I'd written it down. We also found a rope over by the wall. Yes, I had hoped to exit through the skylight, but sadly the rope was too short. I still need to make him British, even if I want to make him sound like a robot. I'm getting my accents mixed up. So I then set about searching for the combination code to open the safe. And burning the incriminating blueprints, don't forget. Regrettably, though, you failed to retrieve the head from the balloon among the rafters. And after that, you hid yourself inside the safe? Having first set this parcel ticking. Well, I had no intention of being nailed by the police. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Got a death wish, have you? Hiding right beside a ticking time bomb. Please, why do you suppose I chose to hide inside the safe? It's no ordinary safe. It's specially designed. A dynamite explosion wouldn't leave a scratch on it. So in fact, the safe was the only safe place. Precisely. But once you climbed inside, you wouldn't have been able to get out again. I invite you to look more closely. The safe is fitted with a handle on the inside to allow the door to be locked from within. Ah, so it is. I had always intended to blow this place to smithereens in any case. I just wasn't expecting uninvited guests to come along and screw up my plans. You mean to say you were planning to blow us all up? No, that was unforeseen. What do you mean? Most people run, you see, when they see a ticking time bomb at their feet. Ah, I calculated the time required for retreat to a safe distance and set the device accordingly. But your seemingly endless discourse in here threw a spanner in the works. Is something wrong, Gregson? Do I have something on my face, besides the usual eyes, ears, nose, and mouth? But not always eyes. I think we have a fairly good idea of what's been going on here now. But what about the two incidents you've evidently been involved in recently? Professor Harebrain's instantaneous kinesis experiment at the Great Exhibition, and the waxwork model you stole which this head belongs to. That's no ordinary head, you know. That's the head of the Professor. Clad in a mask with a lock so strong, I am unable to open it safely to reveal the killer's identity. I've been considering carrying it around as protection, after all. That's enough. What's going on here, Gregson? I'm sure you're aware that I have sole jurisdiction to investigate here.
Yes, well.
Dr. Scythe again. And the forensic investigation team are here. Or so the forensic investigation team are here. And you know full well this engineer is a key witness. So why are you allowing this lawyer to access him? If Lord Strongheart knew of this, you'd be finished. You lot, leave at once. My dear madame, there's no need for such a threatening tone, I assure you. After all, that's no way to greet an old acquaintance, is it, Dr. Scythe? Hello, Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes knows Dr. Scythe? If it's protecting the machine next door that's causing such a sour expression on your face, you are quite misguided. It's really nothing more than a shell, you... Get out! But of course, we'll show ourselves the door. I see you haven't softened at all. Mr. Naruhodo? Yes? It would appear that our delightful, entertaining investigations have run their course for today. But Mr. Sholmes? Let us leave this place in the doctor's capable hands. Exclamation mark. I said get out! Now! All of you! Your presence here is not required either, Gregson.
Understood. And I'll just say one thing before I head off. If it wasn't for this lawyer and his companions, we'd never have found this place, and our workshop would have been blown to bits. There was a time bomb set here that this lot disarmed.
Inspector. Something giving you a chuckle, has it, Drebber?
Ah, so sorry. Didn't mean to offend. You're quite right, of course. You did disarm the time bomb, didn't you? Yes, you did disarm that one.
Eh? What are you... That one? You mean...
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It was an hour later that we heard the news of the enormous explosion that ripped through the experimentation stage at the Great Exhibition. Professor Harebrain's invention and all its secrets were blown away forever. Well, shit. To be continued. Save the current progress. And that will be... Actually, save twice, just to be sure. Okay, that is going to be all for today's stream. Because it's lunchtime. I want food. Thank you all for joining me today. I say as if there's anyone here. This case is really good. I don't... Well, obviously Drebber's the bad guy, obviously. Like, they're not gonna have an arse pull and have someone else be the bad guy now, right? But it's a matter of, like, proving how he did it. And why exactly the waxwork model is involved. Anyway... I do have next week off from work, but I won't be streaming until I complete the song cover that I'm hoping to release on my birthday, which is next Saturday. So if I get it done before then, you might get an extra stream from me sometime next week. Maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on how I go. If not, then my next stream will be on Saturday, which is my birthday. And I still don't fucking know what I'm gonna do for my birthday stream. I'll need to figure that out. Anyway, let's have a look, see who's online. Anyone I know? There is. There is. Let's raid PK. Oh, there's a Splatfest going on. That explains why I saw someone playing Splatoon. Da, 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 da. Here are the raid messages. In case anyone wants to join in. I say as if there's anyone here. I need to stop speaking negatively about that. Look, I streamed for ages with like no viewers. I can do it again. Anyway, yeah. We'll get back to Ace Attorney at some point. I've got stuff I need to work on. That's it. Thanks for watching. Otsuka. Actually, if you have any ideas of what I should do for my birthday stream, let me know, because I don't. Thanks for watching. Otsukame. Bye bye and scene.